So yeah, hey again. This is the official start. Let's get started. So my name is Nico. I'm a product manager at Golem. I'm part of the company for since the beginning. It's been 12 years now. Also at the same time is Alex connected. He will be in the shadows, uh, like managing the chat and managing your questions and making sure that everything goes well according to the plan. And on my side, I'll be doing the talk and doing the sessions. So just another reminder. Well, that's the same I've just said a couple of minutes ago. If you're not familiar with Zoom, you've got a chat box with which you can speak with everyone else. Make sure that your drop down is set up to all panelists and attendees. If you just set it to all panelists, that will just be me and Alex seeing your message, which is okay. But if you wanted to share your message with everybody, make sure to send it to all attendees. Also, please make sure not to post your questions into the chat box because there's a chance we'll miss those. So there's a question and answer panel, and you can put your questions there, and we'll be able to probably answer them during the session, or probably get some times also during the session. So the session will be from now until 10 p.m. here. So that's going to be we're going to spend 4 hours together, and we're going to like break, every hour we're going to make 5-minute breaks. And at the middle of it, we're going to make 15-minute breaks. It's supposed to be sound. I can see someone is asking if there's supposed to be sound. So the answer is yes, there's sound. And if you don't have it, put your speakers on. But I guess most of you can hear me, right? That's not just that guy. You can all hear me. Yes. Okay, that's great. So in the meantime, I was showing you some other customers' work. So just a few slides. It's going to be super rapid. It's just to make some intro. This is the version 1 of the Golaem Academy. We're super excited to do this. Last year we took the opportunity of the lockdown to make some live sessions on some specific topics, but this year we wanted to be able to take people from zero to make them crowd heroes, crowd TV heroes. And the reason for that is because during the pandemic there's so many crowd TD positions to fulfill right now. So we'll speak about that later. So we want more people to be able to do crowds and add this to their skill sets. And wait a minute, because I've lost the chat box. So here we go again. So this is the first day. There's going to be, so it's going to be today, tomorrow, next Monday, and next Tuesday, same times. So it will be 4 times 4 hours. Just a quick intro about us. We are a 6-people company, which was founded 12 years ago. And we're software developer companies. We've been creating that crowd and layout software for almost 10 years now. On May 3rd, it will be the 10 years of the first release of Golem Crowd. We're from France. If you're familiar with the place, we're in Rennes, which is in Brittany, not really far from the sea. It's a small city, but super nice. And yeah, running this for 10 years, which means we have plenty of opportunity to have marvelous projects both for TV and cinemas. You've seen a couple of them, and we even have we won an Emmy Award for our contribution to the TV industry. It's right above me. I cannot grab it right now, but maybe tomorrow I can grab it. But it's a nice prize to which shows how Golem was used those past years. Just a quick reminder of the schedule. You may have seen that already on our website. Today is going to be kind of an introduction. If you used Golem in the past, probably the first half will be really familiar. In the second half, we'll see more, character conversion and more tiny stuff. But we'll start with installing the software, going through that process, making sure that your rendering engine will be supported, and if not, how you make sure it is. We'll go through the Quickstart, character conversion, I've said that, and other stuff. Tomorrow, we'll have a thematic session about stadiums. We're going to populate the scenes with plenty of characters, make some Mexican waves, set up some specific behaviors, do some ground adaptation, probably make some flags also. So we'll have a clove simulation running in addition to the crowds. On Monday, we'll do city simulation, so more advanced stuff and more exciting stuff, actually, because we'll have people avoiding the other guys, playing nice animation, adapting to the situation, and we'll also play with cars because we've been having a traffic system for the past years. And on the final day, we'll do battle simulation, so fightings, introduction to physics to have characters, reacting to impacts and explosions. And we'll play with something we call the channel operators, which can be shortened into chops. The more detailed schedule is going to be on academy.golem.com, so please refer to that if you're not so sure of what's going to happen today or tomorrow. And if it's your first experience doing crowds, you'll have a chance to make an assignment. At the end of the session, you will have learned enough to create a shot on your own. And we'll have a session later. I think it's going to be in 2 or 3 weeks, something like this, where we're going to review your work. So you'll be able to, for the next 2-3 weeks, with all that knowledge that you will have those past days, to create your own shot. If disclaimer or maybe spoiler, it will probably be like a zombie kind of invasion shot. So we show you where to find the assets, how to convert them, and so on and so forth. And the date is going to be May 6th. We're going to do another session where we're going to review the shots. The best shot will be included into a demo reel. And everyone which is super interested into being a crowd TD will be happy to, recommend you on some of the open positions right now. So yeah, day one, getting started. We'll go through installation and configuration of Maya, make sure that everything is set up to Golem to work properly. Go through the Quickstart, also render your first crowd, also through character conversion, motion conversion, and speak about terrain. Hopefully it will take us the 4 hours. It's an end-on session, which means that I invite you to do the same stuff than me at the same time, or just a slightly delay, so you can play with the tool yourself in your own Maya environment. So I'll make sure to go slow enough for people to catch up. I'll probably repeat some of the stuff. If at some point I go maybe too fast, let me know into the chat box. I'm kind of reviewing the chat box, but if I go too fast, let me know. Once again, if you got questions, put them into the question and answer so they don't get scrambled with the other stuff there. So while we're here, let's also quickly speak about, so this is the Academy page. You probably went into that one. This is where you'll be able to find the schedule here. You can add into your own agenda. When are going to be the training sessions, so you always make sure that you don't miss one. Once you'll be completely trained, and if crowd is something you're interested in, we've got a jobs page. You can access that from the Golem website into the artists section. And as you can see, there are plenty of jobs positions to fill ASAP. So those are worldwide. There are, West Coast, East Coast, Europe, so wherever. And also here we're listing crowd artists we've been in touch with, and we recommend those guys. Most of them are already in positions, but if you happen to be looking for a job, you can feature here and be in touch with some HR people if a crowd positions comes by. Okay. So let's get started with installing the software. So first steps first. We sent a video regarding this. So hopefully most of you guys already installed the software. If you haven't had a chance to do it, we'll do it together. So just on the Golem.com website, you can grab the download button here, either on the right or either there. And if you click on it, you are facing like a quick form where you need to provide some data. So I'll let you fill that out. Make sure that into the describe your project stuff, you put the Golem Academy. Let us know which version of Maya you are using, which version of your rendering engine you are using as well. When you're gonna install Golem, it will come with a PLE license. So we call that personal learning education. What, PLE, personal learning education license? Is it the E? Well, I can't remember. I think it is. Which, well, whatever. Which just tells you that you can use the software for free for unlimited time. The only limitation you'll have will be watermarked rendering. Yeah, personal education license. Thank you. No, personal learning edition. Thank you. You provided a close. You provided a better answer than the home team. I knew that was a tip in it. So personal learning edition. That's it. That's the right terms. But whatever. Uh, it's just telling you that you can use the software for free, unlimited. You'll just have watermarks. Obviously, if you do, we'll go through what is the watermarking. But obviously, if you go through the assignment and you want to make your zombie invasion, you don't want to have watermarks, and especially if you want to add it into your demo reel. So we're going to provide commercial license to every single of you who are registered to the class. We'll review how to go through that step at the end of this session. We'll show you how you can provide us with the right data and we'll generate licenses for you for the duration of the academy. So you'll be able to create your own chat with a commercial license and no watermarks. Great. So by the time you probably filled that on, as soon as you filled it, you got a download button and it brings you to packages.golem.com. So when you reach that step, you can download plenty of different stuff. We've got a plugin for Unreal, Houdini, 3ds Max, but we're gonna completely concentrate on the Maya plugin right now. So we'd like you to download, if you're on Windows, one of those packages. It depends on which version of Maya you are using. Obviously, you're using Maya 2018, download the 2018 package. If you're using Linux, it's going to be onto that side here. But I guess most of you are running Windows, and if you're using Linux, you don't need me to install any package. I also would like you to install, if you haven't done it yet, the Golem Character Pack. So the Golem Character Pack are free assets that we provide, which comes with the software to go faster through some examples. So there are a couple of characters into this, couple of motions, couple of scenes with traffic, stadium, stuff we're gonna redo from scratch. There are scenes which are already made that you can take advantage of. So yeah, download both the Golem version and the Golem Character Pack version, and I'll do that and install those. So I'm gonna run Maya 18 today. So I'm gonna download Golem 739, which is the latest release. And I'm gonna download the Golem Character Pack 739 too. So once again, you can access that page through either the evolution form or through packages.golem.com. And when it's downloaded, it's taking a while, I can go into probably my download folder and review what we have. I can see there are some people raising hands. I'm not really sure what does that mean. But if you're raising your hand for some questions, just put the question into the question and answer box. Great. So it's still downloading because the character pack, it's a bit bigger. It has plenty of, okay, it means hello. So hello to you too. Yeah, the character pack is quite heavy because there are plenty of textures to make texture diversity and that kind of stuff. So let's get started with installing the software. So if I want to install the software here, just double click on it and just follow the step. It's a regular installer here. It will just welcome you, asking you if you want to accept the license agreement. So we're going to take 15 minutes to read it. No joking. Nobody reads it, right? Well, it just tells you that whatever you do, it belongs to us, which is fine. And if you agree with that, just check the box, go through next. You can decide where you'd like to install the package. So that's the default installation. So let's go with that. So that step here is pretty important. It tells you if you want to make Golem available automatically for Maya 2018. So I won't go into too much details, but if you don't check that box, probably because you are in the studio pipeline and you want to have your studio installing this for you, there are going to be some extra steps which are going to be required. If you know, you're on your personal computer and you don't really know what that means, it's better to let it check. So Golem will be automatically available into your system. We're just going to write a preference file somewhere into the Maya files. If you uncheck it, we will not do it. So I'll stick with it. Do you want to create a start menu folder? I don't really care. And let all the files being installed. Okay, that's great. Would you like to show the important notice? It's probably a good idea because we had a lot of questions regarding rendering engines and not being supported. So that file here, what I'll show you here, will be the list of the rendering engines and the versions which are supported. So let's go through that. I'll show the important notice. It will open like a text file. The text file tells you that you've been installing Golem 739, which is been released on March 10th. So it's pretty recent. And it supports Maya 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21 on demand, but 21 doesn't exist. They switched to 22, and we're coming with that, and also these other DCCs. Then you've got a list of all the supported rendering engines. So let's say I'm having M2A, so Arnold, and one of the latest package. So latest release of Arnold was 4.2. So supported rendering engines here tells that by default, Golem supports Arnold, M2A, 4.0.x, so any version of 4.0, and 4.1.x. So from that line here, I can tell that 4.2 is not going to be supported. So do this for all the rendering engines that you are running. And once you do this, you have got a second chance, which is also supported, but must be manually installed. And here for my Arnold version, I can see 4.2.x is apparently supported, but needs to be manually installed. So we'll actually go through that step also. And you can see that you also have a link to the documentation, which is going to be explaining to you how to install that other version, optional version, which is not installed by default, but which does exist. If your rendering engine is not listed here, or if your version is not listed here, it means that it's not supported by us. Probably, if you're not sure, still send us a message. But yeah, if it's not here, probably it's not supported. So make sure to either update your rendering engine and rendering engine versions to make sure that it fulfills any of those conditions. So yeah, let's go through this here quickly. Let's say I'm going to use 4.2 and I really want to make sure it works properly. So I'm going to copy and paste that link. And now we're telling you a couple of stuff like, okay, if you're using Arnold, what you need to do is go into the directory package where Golem has been installed and move some files. So it tells me to go into my Golem directory, into procedurals, Arnold, and a folder called compatibility, and find crowd Arnold XX. XX means your version of the plugin you want to install, and rename it, paste it elsewhere and rename it. Do the same thing for the shaders and do the same thing for the translator. So here I'm going to use 4.2, so I'm actually going to do it. So I'll go into my Golem installation folder. That's like it's expected. Open it. I'll go into procedurals, Arnold, and you can see here there's a library here which is for the default version of Arnold, but which is not the one we want. I'll go into compatibility, and here what I want to use is the 4.2 version, which corresponds to Arnold Core 6.2. So what I want to do is copy that file. So I'm going to copy it. Make sure not to cut it, else you will not be able to change this later. Go back into Arnold. I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to remove the file which existed in the past and rename this, remove the 6 and the 2. So now it's named the same way than before. So I replaced the library, which was before, for Arnold 4.0 and 4.1, and I replace it with a library which is for 4.2. Okay, I did this for the procedurals. I now need to do it for the shaders, and I now also need to do it for the extensions. So let's go back into my Golaem directory, shaders, Arnold, compatibility. Once again, I've got Crowd Arnold shaders 6.2. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here, remove the previous one, and rename it properly. If I remove the previous one, it's because within the compatibility folder, I know that I still have it, that GLM Crowd Arnold 6.0 shaders, it was the same file that was here before. So if I want to, go back to another version of Arnold, I can still switch back to this. And I need also to do this for the extensions. So I'll go within Arnold, compatibility, copy my translator and put it there. Delete the previous one and remove the 6.2. If you want to reach that page here, you go into, let me go through that, help.golem.com, which is going to be our documentation. help.golem.com. I think you go into installation guide, advanced installation, and using renderer compatibility procedurals, and you reach that page. Notice that for every single rendering engine, the procedure will be different. For V-Ray, there's just one file to change. For Redshift, it's 2 files. For RenderMan, it's going to be 3 files. That really depends the kind of rendering engine you are. So if you haven't had the chance to do this yet, you'll be able to do it later. We'll have some breaks like every hour. So you'll be able to review this. We don't need to render from the first hour, I think. So no big deal for that. You can do that later. But remember that, Golem doesn't really necessarily support your rendering engine by default. There's a chance that if you're not using the right version, it will not work. By the way, if you haven't, checked that disclaimer, show important notice, you can still go into our documentation, help.golem.com, and the first link is the release notes. And within the release note, you'll find a list of all the releases we've been doing. And if you check Golem 7.3.9, at the end, you have exactly the same data that the one we've been seeing into the text file. So the default supporting rendering versions are going to be M2A 4.0 and 4.1. And if you want to manually install, there's a plugin for 4.2. So make sure that every time you install a version, that will still have that same configuration for you, else rendering will not work. Great. So next step was we want to install the character pack. We've been installing the software. So now we're going to go through installing the character pack. So let's run this. Once again, user agreement, which is more or less the same. I've totally read it and accepted it. I want to install it like wherever I want to, really up to you here. Next, I do not want to create shortcut for this. And once again, we're gonna extract all those files. So they're going to be characters. So there's a soldier, a casual man, casual woman. There's also a car, some catapult systems, and it also comes with scenes like a battle scenes. There are horses as well. There's some horses animations. And a couple of motion clips to do stadium, city. So this is more or less the assets we're going to use during the academy session. Obviously here we're going to use pre-made assets, but we also are going to show you how you can bring your own assets into Golem, because as you can guess, all our customers, they're not using necessarily the assets that we provide. Sometimes they use it as a base. Sometimes they create their own stuff. And sometimes they use our complete custom made assets. You may have noticed I had that black window. Make sure not to close it. It's a kind of a script which is really relocated in your file afterwards. So make sure to let this open until it's done. And when it's done, you end up with both Golem and the character pack being installed. And now we're ready to launch Maya. Let's go there. So here I've been installing Golem for Maya 2018. So I'm going to load I'm going to launch Maya 2018 the regular way from the start menu. I'm borrowing the license because I'm working remotely. So this is why I'm getting that message. And let's see if the plugin is here. Great. Well, I have some auto loads everywhere because I'm starting Maya a lot of time a day. But on your side here, you probably don't have that shelf yet, and you don't have the menu yet. So if you're not familiar with Maya, once you install the plugin within your session, you can go into Windows, Settings Preference, Plugin Manager. And if you don't want to go through the list, which may be quite long, you can start with GLM, which stands for Golem. And if the software is installed properly, you'll figure that here you're having a glm crowd.mll, which is the Golem plugin, and you can load it. As soon as you load it, you'll end up with that in-view message that I had. You'll also end up with a shelf, which is white and orange, and also two menus, a Golem and a Golem random menu. If you don't have the Golem plugin, probably means that you haven't let that checkbox automatically installed, whatever Maya stuff. So you probably need to go through the installer again and make sure that you set up with the default options. Great. So also, just a quick word about the personal learning edition stuff. As soon as you're running Golem in PLE, you'll have that locker here in the shelf, which tells you that this Maya session is using a personal learning edition license. You probably end up with some also with some message into the script editor, like here, no Golem for Maya commercial license found. So we're going to use the personal learning edition license instead. And I had also an in-view message, like right in the middle of my viewport. I had a message telling me that I was using a learning edition. So once again, whenever you have that locker, it means that you're running in a learning mode, and whatever you'll do in terms of scenes and assets, they will be contaminated. So it means that if you do a scene with a learning edition, even if you got a commercial license later, that scene is contaminated and will render with the watermark. So make sure that as soon as you start your assignment, your license is correctly installed. If the license is correctly installed, you don't get all those messages, and more importantly, you don't get that locker into your scene. So when the Golem plugin is loaded, and this is the first time you're loading it, the right thing to do is to check that your configuration for Maya is correct. So we'll start with the first button of the shelf. So into the Golem shelf, the first button is going to be that white guy with the green checker on it. And it will open just a settings checker window. And what you really want to have is everything to yes. They are really critical attributes here. So I'll review probably the most, the most casual of you, that the one you may have. So probably most of you, if you never been using simulation tools within Maya, you'll have that play every frame, which is set to no. So this is the default settings for Maya actually. And it means that, if the scene is heavy, Maya will be allowed to skip some frames. And when you do simulation, you really don't want to skip any frame, because every single frame computation relies on the previous frame computation. So if you want to see the frame 10, you need to compute the frame 9, which needs to compute the frame 8, and so on and so forth. So you need to execute every single frame sequentially. And by default, Maya is actually in the mode where if your scene is too heavy, it will skip some frames. So the way you fix this is by right-clicking into the time bar, and you can go into playback speed, and you need to pick one of those options, either play every frame free. So free means that Maya will go as fast as it can in terms of frame rate. So you may have scenes which are playing at 100 FPS, even if your scene is 24 FPS. I tend to like the play every frame max real time because it's usually fitting more the shots. So it will play at the frequency you've been defining Maya to be. So right click into the time bar, playback speed, play every frame. Just if I'm in real time and I'm checking the settings checker, I get a no here, and I also get a link, which is also sending you to our documentation, which kind of says exactly what I've been saying so far. But it brings you to the right part of the documentation, which tells you why and how you fix this. Then you also want to make sure that your working unit is centimeters. This is the default settings for Maya, but make sure never to change this. That the up axis is Y, which is once again the default settings. That you show both locators and plugin shapes, and that your viewport engine is set up to OpenGL, that you're not using DirectX because DirectX is not supported as a viewport. I think the most casual option is this one here. If you have any of those, click on the help button and see how you can fix those. But they're usually Maya settings that you can change here and there. So let's go back into my playback speed, play every frame, max real time, and we're good. So what we'll start to do is going through a quick start. So we're gonna take like 10-15 minutes to make a crowd, a really simple crowd, but just go through the workflow together once, so you get a good idea of which steps you need to go through to get your crowd. If your rendering engine is supported by this session of Maya, we'll even be able to render that and see how it looks. So let's get started with maybe a quick introduction about the shelf as well. We try to make the tool as intuitive as possible, obviously, and usually you use the tools in a pretty sequential order. So you start by setting up your characters here with that section here. So you check your Maya session and parameters. We've been doing this so far. Here, this is where you convert your characters, you convert your terrain. Here is where you set up your scene, you initialize your scene with some characters and population tools. We'll go through those. Once you've done that, you want to assign some behaviors. And this is the next shelf button here. Once your simulation is nice and you really like it, you want to send it to render. So you need to export that simulation, then play with the shading, layout, lighting tools, and render that. So, character conversion, scene setup, scene behaviors, scene export, rendering, lighting, and rendering, lighting, shading here at the end. Great. So here we're going to skip for now the character conversion tool, and we're going to skip the terrain as well. We'll speak about terrain just a bit later, but right now in the quick start, we don't really need to have any terrain. So the first button I will use into the shelf here is the entity type node. So a quick word about the entity type is, how can I say this? This is like type of characters you'd like to have in your scenes. Let's say you make a stadium scene. You probably have team A and team B characters, and they probably have different behaviors. They will react differently to what's happening to the scene. So when you've got something like different kind of behaviors, they're probably different types within Golem. Also, if you're using different characters, let's say you've got a man and a woman character, they're not sharing the same skeletons and the same meshes. So there will be two different assets. You also want to use two different types to load them into Golem. So this is entity type. This is kind of type of characters you want to instance into your scene. Here into the workflow, we just want to use maybe one type of character. We'll see if we want to extend this more. I'll start playing with that button here. So I want to create an entity type. So if I click on that button once, I end up with a open character file prompt. So right away, we'll get prompt to load something. We can see that what we want to load is a character file. So character file is a Golem proprietary file, which stores how does a character looks like. So we'll cover this later in this session, how you create your own character files. But for now, we'll just use the character files which belong to the character pack. So we've been installing the character pack earlier in this session. So I want you to go into where it's been installed. So probably into C Golem character pack, and afterwards you can go into the Golem and characters subdirectories, and you have a full list of characters. So I'll let you browse through those files. So let me do it from my side from the start. So it's probably into C, Golem, Golem character pack. Here you've got a Golem folder with lowercase characters. So you've got characters, motion, shaders, and textures. So here I want to go into characters because I want to load a Golem character. And I end up with plenty of different characters, like an arachnid character, a bee character, casual car, casual man, casual woman. So this is a different characters which comes with the software. So I'm gonna assume that you guys all went through this. So once again, what I did, maybe I can just clean my scene and repeat that if in case you missed the beginning. So I click on that button here, which is the entity type button. So it's a white and orange character. And by the way, I'm having tooltips on my side, but I know that by default they're not enabled into Maya. So I'll show you in just a couple of seconds how you can re-enable that because we're taking advantage of those. So I click once of this button, I get browse to load my Golem character. And if I go into C, Golem character pack, Golem characters, what I'll do is for the quick start, I'll just use the casualman underscore light dot gcha. So .gcha stands for Golem character, G for Golem and CHA for character. And Casual Man Light is like a light version of the Casual Man above. So it's like a demo character. It has just a few samples of meshes, but it's super fast to load and easier to handle, I'll say. So I'll select that one here and open. And once I open it, I get a second browser. So that never ends. So that second browser, if we read the title of that browser, it tells you, would you like to import the Maya scene containing the shaders? And it provides you with a list of shaders. I would not go into too much details about the shaders right now. We'll speak about that a bit later. But here it's just prompting you to load a Maya file, so MA or MB file, which has shaders into this, which corresponds to that character. So up to you to load them here. So if you want to load them, you need to go into, once again, the character pack. So C, Golem character pack, the Golem lowercase folder. And you got you've got the character folder that we used a bit earlier, and you also have like a shaders folder. So we're gonna jump into that shaders folder, and here you got plenty of Maya files. So you can see there are plenty of files for the arachnid. So arachnid underscore AR, RIS, RS, VR, etc., etc. We got the same for the B character, for the casual car, for the casual man. So those suffix here, AR stands for Arnold, RIS stands for Randomman, RS stands for Redshift, VR stands for V-Ray. So depending on which rendering engine you are using, make sure that you are loading the right one. So here I'm using Casual Man Light, so I want to load one of those files. And I'm going to use the Arnold rendering engine. So I'm going to select the Casual Man Light underscore AR shader file. So yeah, you're getting asked to browse this. So once again, I'll go, it's C, Golem, character pack, Golem shaders, and Casual Man Light underscore AR. Okay. And I get error message saying that the shaders are not loading properly, so I may have done something with the shaders not being correct. I'll check that later. But if it works properly, you probably have like a grade character into your scene. That character has a skeleton. It has a couple of mesh. We can't really see the meshes here. Sorry about that. I make a I think I made a mistake into my configuration. Let me check if I'm using the right M2A version. Haha, I'm not using M2A, so Arnold is not into that scene, so this is why I cannot see my shaders, so this is the reason why. Never mind, I can totally do that session and that overview without rendering so far. So just a quick word about what went into the scene since we've been doing this. So if you check your outliner, you end up with plenty of different stuff. So you end up with a manager node. So the manager node is like the nucleus or whatsoever. It's kind of the node which contains all the shared variable for your simulation. Like what's the start frame of the scene? What's the units of the scene? And we'll have a talk about units probably later today, actually. What's the default terrain you want to use? It's kind of data which are going to be shared by all the characters. So we put those into the manager, which is, just like the nucleus with particle simulations. We also have something called GLM behaviors, which when we open, we'll have that, I don't know, folder, which doesn't have any attributes. So we'll skip that. We don't really care about this. We also have a GLM entity types folder. We've been creating an entity type. So this is why we're ending with a folder called entity type. If we open it, we've got a green line, which tells us that we've got an entity type 1 node into the scene. I can probably rename this casual man. Great. And that guy here has an attribute. So if I select here, I can see that it has plenty of attributes into the attribute editor. So if I select it, I can see my character file is the one I've been loading from C, Golaem character, blah, 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 so on and so forth. It has some scale attribute, that's some display attribute. We won't go into too much details there, but that's the node which is handling all the character data. We'll probably play with the scale a bit later, but this is kind of where all the data related to the characters will be stored. So yeah, get used to probably those parameters, and it can be also a good idea to dive into the documentation, see what are all those attributes doing for that character. But this is the entity type node, and if you need to create, one type for the man, one type for the woman, one type for team A, one type for team B, whenever you need to create a new type, you just, click on that characters on that button here into the shelf, and that will create more types that you can load here. I can see some messages regarding shaders being all black. If your shaders are black, it's probably either because when you install the character pack, you close that black window I told you about, and it can't locate the textures. If you can also check some errors into the script editor. So you can open the script editor from the bottom right, and here you can see it tells me unrecognized nodes because the shaders, well, here it's because M2A is not loaded, but maybe you got something similar like this, like errors, and maybe it means that your rendering engine is not supported or you haven't installed the Golem shaders properly. But I'll let you go through that a bit later, and I totally forgot to say that there's a Discord. I'll remind this at the end of the session. So, okay, yeah, when I see message like was compiled against non-compatible 6.2, blah, 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 it means that you haven't installed the right version. So maybe you installed the 4.2 version and you were using a 4.0 version. So there's just a mismatch with your rendering engine. So yeah, at the end of these sessions and for the past days, we've been running a Discord server, and that will be the perfect place after the session to, well, you can review the session once again, but if you got questions about things you can't really understand, you'll be able to go into the Discord. Some other people from the community will be able to help you. And also we'll be, answering some questions tomorrow as well. But yeah, I'll remind that a bit later and show you how to access the Discord. But stay with me. If it's black here, if you got error message, it just means that you will not render. Hopefully, one of you guys, because there's many of you, but one of you guys will be able to render, and that will be my victory today if one of you can render. But stick with me if your shaders are not here, if you're having error message, not a big deal. It just means you'll skip the rendering part of that workflow. But before Tuesday, we'll figure for every single of you how to make this render properly. So, okay, now we've been creating our first type of characters. So now those characters, they exist and we can instance those characters. We can create as many characters as we want into our scene. So let's get started with populating the scene. So we're gonna move on within the buttons. So we've been using that one here, create entity type. And by the way, I was saying earlier that if you don't have the tooltips on your side, I think it's a good thing to enable it. I'm not sure why Maya decided to disable this by default. So if you want to enable the tooltips, you need to go into your, I'm not sure, animation preferences. Yeah, you need to click on that button here, that character with the, well, I'm not really sure what's the name, a gear. I think it's a gear with the gear next to it. I think it's within the help section. So right at the beginning of the categories, you've got help. And I think by default, display tool clips is disabled. So it means that you don't have any tool clips being displayed, which is really a shame. So I think it's a good thing to enable it. So whenever you hover above a button, you'll get a text. So I'll say I want to display the tool clips, and now if I hover above it, I can see more data about every single buttons here. Great. So let's move on. We'll skip those ones here, even if they're super interesting. We'll play with those with the battle sessions probably, and we'll go into that tool. So that tool here looks like kind of bubbles, which are orange, and this is the population tool. This is the tool you're going to use to create your instancer for your characters. So it's a tool. So like any tools in Maya, if you want to open it, you need to double click on this. If you double click, it will open a tool settings. If you just simply click on it, like let's say I close this, if you simply click on it, you just get a message into your viewport, click and drag your locator, but you don't have access to the options. If you double click on it, you'll get access to the options of the tool. So this is the tool you can use to draw different shapes and specify, what kind of shape you want to create your characters on. Once again, this is the overview. We'll play with many of those in the following days, but we'll stick with probably the simplest one. If you fancy using maybe the box or the polygon, if you fancy this, have a try with it, maybe later. But for now, just to stick with the cross one. So the cross one is just the grid. You can change the option if you want. So we'll stick with the cross. And if I just click and put the cross everywhere into my scene, it will create a cross into my 3D viewport. So I'll just redo the operation. I'm gonna select and delete this. So go into the population tool here, double click. It will open the different options you want to play with. Stay with the grid and click this wherever you want to. Obviously, this is that tool here, that new node that you created in your scene. It's a fully movable object, so you can use the translate tool or the orient tool to change its orientation and positions. Great. So this is the tool we're going to use to populate our scene. So you can see it's pretty scarce from the beginning. I just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. So nothing really interesting, not really a crowd, right? We want to have more people here. So that guy appears into the Golem populations folder. So we can open it, and we can see we've got a green node because the character is because the cross is actually green within the scene. So this corresponds to this locator, but I can create as many population tools in my scene, and they all have different colors. And if you select it and you open the attribute editor, so if you're not familiar with Maya, the attribute editor is from here. You can just click on that button here, which is looking like sliders, or not so sure. And that opens the attribute editor for Maya. So when you click on this, you've got access to every single attribute for your population. So the first attribute you can access to is the slots. So how many characters I want to put in. So right now I have 5 slots into my viewport. And if I pump those, here if I put 738, well, I can see I've got more slots, but um, I don't have 738 locators. Um, just a reminder, put your questions into the question and answer panel. I can see some questions bumping here and there. So make sure that you're pushing them into the right position, the right place. So yeah, I pushed my slider to 748, but I don't have 748 slots. Let's see later what's the reason for that. I can change the radius. So the radius will change the size of my slots if my character are going to be, bigger or smaller. So the default value is 0.3. I can change the 8, and the 8 will not show me any difference into here. So I will not change much into this. I can change the distance between my characters to have them have a different distance here. So play with those, change those attributes the way it fits you best. So here we'll see they're completely aligned in lines and columns. So what you can do also is play with the noise to have them following more different pattern. So you can change the noise, and noise X and Z, they're connected together. But if you want to have a different noise for the x-axis and the z-axis, you can just break the connection and change those values separately. So grid pattern, zero noise, put some noise, and not so a grid anymore. I can change the orientation of my characters. So if I change this, it will going to change the orientation for all the characters at the same time. If I change the orientation noise, it will add some noise per character. So what I like to do is usually provide some distance, provide a bit of noise to make it more organic, and also provide some orientation noise to have them face a different direction. And finally, what we can play with is the number of columns and number of rows. Here we are within a grid locator, so we can control how many rows and how many columns we want to have. And if we check this, oh surprise, we can see we've got 10 columns, 6 rows as the maximum limits. And we can see into the viewports that I'm having 10 columns and 6 rows. So this is why, even if I'm saying that I want to have almost 700 characters, right now there's only 60 characters which have been placed. So I can bump those, and now I can see I've got more slots being created into my scene. So, okay, it looks more like a crowd. I've got 555 characters into my scene. So this is something better. So once again, change those attributes, play with those. It's a pretty fun tool to play with. I'm not sure if we'll have a time, but keep in mind that you can also use some meshes as generation zone. You are also able to use some painting tools to paint your own density. Plenty of different tools to play with it to control exactly how your population is going to be. And when you're happy with that, so we went through all the attributes here. When you're happy with that, you've got a create button here. And if we press create, you'll have something happening into your scene. The first thing you can see is you've got that orange box which appeared all around your zones where you've been populating your scene. If you look here at the middle of the scene, you've got that walking character which appeared, which tells you that now you've got an active simulation into your scene. And how do you make sure you have an active active simulation is by playing the first frame of your simulation. So notice that Golem is a simulation engine, which means that if you want to see your characters, you need to run the frames. So you need to rewind, go back to frame 1, and run a couple of frames. And as soon as you run your frames, now you've got your crowd appearing. So my 595 characters appearing into my viewport. Okay, let's see sanity check. If you guys are able to see people into your viewport and you were able to follow this properly, put a okay or a yes into the chat box just to make sure that I've not lost all of you. Okay, so that's a couple of you. Okay, that's good news. Okay, well, you guys managed your first crowd. I'm not sure how many you put into this, but I've got 600 characters. Yeah, okay, I can see that warning, cache playback, blah blah blah. Cache disabled by, well, don't care about this. And okay, so there's a, what time it is? So almost time to make a break. That's a good time to almost make a break. So let me maybe just to speak about some units. I was saying earlier that when you are and also units is it's a really important data when, especially when you're doing simulation. So the first part is into a scene settings. You really want to make sure that Maya linear walking units is set up to centimeters. It's the default parameters into Maya, and there's a kind of agreement worldwide into studios that you should never ever never change this, because physics depends on units. So whenever you do n particles or close and close within Maya, you would expect it to depend on unit, but there's kind of a legacy, bug into Maya which makes it not work with units. So we kind of all agree that we never change the unit and we just change the scales locally in our own software. So first thing first is make sure that it's never something else than centimeters. Even if you're working in meters, even if you're working in decimeters, never mind, just stick it like this. So, okay, so that's the first part, making sure that Maya is aligned properly. Second part, here, if we create a cube, I create a default cube, and my cube here is 111. So we really need to, at some point, when you are in a production pipeline, you really need to figure um, how much is one? What is one here? Is one a meter? Is one a decimeter, centimeter, a yard, an inch? It really depends on the project you're working on, in the studio you're working on, and also in the country you're working on. I think from my experience in France, we tend to work in meters, and this is why Golem by default is set up to the meter unit. But probably in UK, I think it's more decimeters. In US, maybe centimeters. But also, it really depends on the scale of your project. According to the size of the guys here, if we say it's are supposed to be a realistic crowd, those guys are probably 1.8 cube, right? So they're probably 1.8 meters. 1.8 meters is like realistic scale for those guys. Obviously, if we consider their centimeters, they're really small and they're kind of ant-sized characters. And why does it have an influence? Because when you do physics, there's something called gravity, and gravity has an influence depending on the size of the character. Falling from 1 centimeter or falling from 1 meter is not the same, and your body is not reacting the same way. So at some point, you need to specify what's going to be the unit within Golem. So here, my cube is 111, and we're going to say it's meter. So whenever we start a new scene, we really want to make sure that the manager is set up properly. So here, if I go into the manager, we can see the crowd unit is set up to meters. And for now, if you're using the Golem character pack assets and you're following that workflow, I really encourage you not to change anything regarding this. Let the manager into units. If you decide to change the unit later for some projects, some other projects, you'll get a crowd unit information which tells you that into your scene, you've been doing some stuff and it's kind of late. So if you decide to change this, you have to remove that population tool because your characters here, they're not valid anymore. So roger that. And it means that now I have to, don't do this on your side, I just want to show you. Now I have to delete my population and my crowd. And the next time I'm gonna create a population tool, I can see that my radius for my population tools is different, it's bigger. So now I'm working into a different unit. So it's usually something you set up first. So once again, I'll go back into the settings I was at. So you need to take care into your environment. So what's the size of my environment? What's the size of my character? Align the unit with it. So within the manager, I'm going to be into a meter unit. So make sure that you are into a meters unit. Recreate quickly my locator with my characters in it. Put some distance into this. Put some noise. create. And now is probably a good time to save your scene. So I'm gonna save it into an demo academy scene, and let's call that 00 quick start. Okay, let's make a break. 5 minutes, so it's 7:01. So let's come back into yeah, in 5 minutes, like right now, right away. So it will be 7:06. Time to drink something, uh, go to the toilets, whatever. And if there are questions regarding specific configurations, yeah, put your questions into the chat box, and I review those. And into the next part, we'll see how to assign behaviors to make those guys move. So I think most questions. That's weird. I'm getting this error, even if okay, I can see there's some. Well, if you got the I'm not sure if Jan is still around, but if you got the unrecognized node type switch shader on all, it means that the shaders are not being installed properly. So if you refer to the documentation page I was at, I had 3 files to install, and one of the 3 files was the shader file. And wait a minute, I have that. I would like to move this because I can access it. Well, if you can't make it work properly, we'll probably figure this through the Discord after the sessions. It's fine. Okay, and there's a questions right above. Does the radius parameters of the pop tool affect the way agents handle avoidance with other agents or colliders, or is it just to handle separation between entities at creation? So I'm not sure if Eduardo is behind the computer, especially now I've seen that it's a break. So I'll wait for 06. Oh, you are here. Hey there. So yes, the radius parameters totally affect the way avoidance work. When we're going to do the CT simulation, so it's going to be on Monday evening, we'll speak about that in way much more details, because we're going to do avoidance with obstacles and with other entities. And obviously this is not, we're not taking the skeletons to make collision avoidance. It will be too heavy in terms of computation. So we're kind of simplifying the characters as a cylinder. The cylinder will be defined by 2 stuff, one which is the radius of the cylinder, and one which is the 8. And this is actually the 2 data you set up into your population tool. So let's go back into the population tool, which is here. You've got radius and 8, and this is what we're going to use to make avoidance. I'll provide I'll provide more details regarding this when we are going to speak about city simulation. Okay, I've got Alexi questions here. In the Golem scene settings check test tab, I've got the entity types are all initialized set to no. So it means that you probably created multiple of those, which is fine. And one of those don't have a character set into this. So you can either delete it or you can just load a character file within it. So I can show you the error on my side. Let's say I click on the entity type again and do cancel. Now I got another type, which is going to be blue into my scene. If I open here, I've got entity types aren't all initialized. No, this is more like a warning. It's not like a fatal error. It's just like a warning saying you know what, you've been specifying creating a character that is not existing into the scene. So you can just remove that type you're not using, or just load a character file within it so it becomes valid. When I run the check test, it indicates my locators are hidden, but it's not. So usually what we check is within the viewport you're using, we check that show locators here is enabled because we'll use that for display. So you've seen that here, I've unchecked it. And if I go back here into my checker, I can see locators show option is set, no. So I can't really remind why we need this, but I know we need this. So you can go into show locators, and if it doesn't fix your issue, probably go into the Discord and we'll see how we can fix this later. Hugo's questions. So that was answer live, answer live, answer live, up. What else do I have? Is a shader importing system using Maya reference system? It's a great question. It doesn't, but you could totally use the reference system. Here we're just doing a Maya file import into the scene, so nothing fancy. And I know for sure that studios have their own tool to create the entity type automatically, because obviously we've got API all around. So people are creating entity types automatically, referencing shaders into the scene, providing the right names, etc., etc. Here in the default mode, it's not using the reference system at all, but no problem using it, no limitation using it. I'll just quickly check if, so that was answer live, done, 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 done. And it's almost time. Let me just take just 1 minute to drink. Okay. As a reminder, put your questions into a QA to make sure that we don't miss those. Don't put them into the chat box, else we may miss them. Okay, let's continue. If you got any issue regarding rendering, please go on the Discord, and we'll figure that later. We don't have, the specific time dedicated to that, but nothing fancy. If your rendering engine is part of the list, we'll figure a way to make it work. Great. So let's move forward. And now we've got a scene, and we want to add some behaviors to those guys. So let's move into the buttons. We've been using the entity types buttons here. We've been using the population tool to create a population. And maybe if we want, we can create maybe another population quickly, like going to the grid mode once again. Well, you know what? Let's change the mode. I'll go into the box mode, open my tool again, select the box. So the box is about clicking and dragging. So I can create a box now. It has a different color. I can create characters. Those will stay into the shape of my box. I can change the distance. I can noise that. And once again, when I'm happy with that, I just press create. And if I rewind the simulation and I play it again, now I've got more characters. So you can add as many population tools in your scene, as many place tools into your scene to create and spawn, more characters. Anytime you add more characters, you always need to go back into the first frame. You always need to rewind and play the first couple of frames. Once again, Golem is a simulation engine. It relies on the previous frame to compute the next frame. So you really want to make sure that every time you change something, you restart the simulation from the scratch. Great. So if you, yeah, maybe a good thing to do after the sessions or later for you, like recreate this from scratch and do this yourself. Okay, let's jump into adding more behaviors onto our characters. Right now, my characters, if I play more frames, nothing's going on onto my guys. So what we want to do is assign some actions. So the actions are going to take place within the behavior editor. So that's the first editor you can find into the shelf. So that's a gray box with some small white and orange boxes into this. This is the behavior editor. And this is probably where we're going to spend most of our time into the next sessions, because we want to assign intelligence to those characters. And this is the tool we're going to use to do that. So let's open that guy and see what's within it. So maybe a quick read And amongst the tools, so this is the behavior editor. This is where you set up your intelligence on your character. On the right side, so if just a quick word, if it opens and it looks really dry, you don't have the same interface than me, make sure that, or if you closed one of those panels, you can reopen those panels from here. So you can just click here to have the behavior library. You can click there to have the trigger library, and click on that one to have the outliner of the scene. So if you close this, maybe by accident, or if the tool doesn't open the same way on your side, you can reopen those panels here. I tend to like my behavior editor this way, having my outliner here on the right, having my libraries here on the left. So you have like an outliner where here you got all the types you've been creating. So right now we just created one type, and that type is a green casual man light casual man type. So we can find it here. And I also have an outliner, so I'm not supposed to have that guy here. So let's remove it. That's because I was answering another question earlier. So let's remove it from the scene. You're supposed to have just a casual man shape container. So that's just a container. I'll speak about this a bit later. So here, this is the outliner, which is everything, every node which you have in your scene right now, which is relating to the behaviors. So we've got the behaviors, motion clips, which are loaded into the scene. Right now, we don't have any motion clips, and triggers within the scene. Right now, we don't have any triggers. And on your left, you've got behaviors that you can assign to your characters. So plenty of behaviors. I'm not sure we're gonna play with those, but all of those, but with most of those. And there are different actions you can just assign to your characters. And here there are a library of triggers you can assign to your characters. So we'll see this later. So my actions can be, I want to go somewhere. I want to avoid characters. I want to play a motion. If you hover any single icons, you get a quick definition about what they do. And I'll show you how to use them. So, okay, if we pay attention to that tool, and right in the middle, we can see we've got to open a crowd entity type from the behavior outliner to get the party started. So we've got all that gray area where we can't do nothing, and it tells us to open a crowd entity type from the outliner to get the party started. So my outliner, my behavior outliner is here, and I want to open a crowd entity type, which is one of those guys there. So if I want to open it, I'm going to select that guy here and double click on it, and it will open my behavior zone. So that zone here tells you what are doing the characters for the duration of the simulation. And obviously it's empty. We haven't done anything yet. So this is why right now my characters, they don't do anything. They just stay into their T-pose. And the whole game of being a crowd TD is to add behaviors here and there and make them do awesome stuff. So let them do awesome stuff. So for the workflow here, for the overview of the workflow, we'll do a really simple stuff, which is just, I want them to play a motion clip. So once again, I open that area by double clicking on my characters that open the zone. Right now, the zone is empty. And what I want to do is use the third behavior. So from the library, I can use the motion behavior. So it's just a white guy walking, and its name is motion, plays an animation file on the character, only works if the character skeleton has been loaded, and we have been loading a character, so we're good. I can drag that node, so I can click here, drag it. As soon as I drag it, I can see I've got that walking characters into the scene, and I can release my mouse, and as soon as I release it, I've got a box appearing, which is named BE motion, so behavior motion. Shape 1 with brackets. We can see it's named motion because it tells us it's a motion behavior. And it kind of looks grayed out right now because it's not assigned to our characters. If I put it here, nothing happens. It's not assigned to the characters. If I want to assign it to the characters, I need to put it into my flow. So the flow here, this is the start of the simulation. So what happened at the start? And my flow will tend to go into the end of my simulation. So right now, nothing happens during that sequence. So what I want to do is drag and drop my sequence on the arrow, you can see that as soon as I take my behaviors and put it on my arrow becomes orange, which means if I release, that will be snap together. So here now I have my behavior, which is active and being snapped onto my characters. I'll do this once again. So what I want to use is the motion behavior, is the third one into the list. First line, third one, it's called motion. I can click it from the library, drag it, and I can release it on the arrow as soon as the arrow turns orange. Now the behavior becomes active. Great, we've set up our first behavior. So here we've got a motion behavior. Maybe just a quick word about controls. Let's say you want to remove that behavior from the flow. You can press the Alt key and left click on the character, on the behavior. And if you drag that behavior away, you can see now it's unlinking from the flow. If you release the Alt button and you just move that behavior away, it will just move and snap to whatever it's in. Once again, if I play Alt, you can see now it's remove it from the flow. Let's say maybe you made by accident, you killed one of the connection. You can see now everything grayed out because there's no, the graph is not closed. We've got that open simulation and nothing happens. If you want to redraw that arrow, you can use the middle click of your button of your mouse. So middle click and drag, release, and now you're creating an arrow. You can also use that button here. So that button is a toggle. So when you click on it, every single left click you'll do, draw an arrow. So that's if you're on the laptop and you don't have the middle click, for example. And make sure that you untoggle the button when you're done making connections. So let's say you break a connection, you can use the middle click of your mouse. If you don't have the middle click on your mouse, you can activate the toggle mode, use the left click to create an arrow, and release the toggle map. Great, so we've got our first motion behavior being assigned to the characters. And if I just rewind the sim and I play the sim, nothing happens. Even worse, I've got errors everywhere. I've got a red square box here. I've got a forbidden sign on my character. So apparently something is wrong. If I click on my behavior, which has an issue, it tells me, hey, there are no motion files in that behavior. So it's true. We're asking the characters to play a motion, but we haven't set any motion yet. So if you want to set a motion, we can just double click on that guy here. And from that double click, we'll get a browse file once again, which asks you to load a motion file. So motion file, our Golaem proprietary file. I'll show you also how you can create your own if you want. But for now, we're going to stick with the character pack once again. So let's go back into the character pack. So C probably will be a good idea to make a shortcut to the character pack because we're going to refer to that directory a lot of time. So C, Golaem character pack set 739, Golaem lowercase. And this is the same place we've been picking characters and shaders from the beginning. And we'll go into motions this time. And if you look into motions, you've got plenty of different types of motion. We've got audience motion, which are for stadiums. We've got battle animations, which are for soldiers and fighting scenes. We've got a bee animation, cavalry for horses, and we've got locomotion. So for that character, I'd recommend sticking with the audience. So it's the stadium stuff, or locomotion. So here I'm going to pick locomotion. And when I open locomotion, I've got plenty of different motion files. So walk fast, walk normal, walk and turn, run, stand. So what I'll do is I want my character to walk. So I'll pick the walk fast, walk normal. I can press control and select multiple motions if I want. And the walk slow animation. So I just picked on those 3 clips here. So once again, you can find them in the same place than before. So C, Golaem character pack, Golaem lowercase, motions, and either pick into the audience or the locomotion. In here, I pick multiple motions. I'll take the different walks animations. And I select those, open them, and now I should get walking characters with different paces. I've got a walk fast, a walk slow, a walk normal. So now I've got all my characters walking. There are collisions. Some characters are colliding, but this is not the topic of today. So we'll see later how we can avoid that. But right now they're just playing a motion and they don't really care about each other. And they don't care about any terrain because we haven't defined any terrain, and we can let them play that motion, then that motion will just loop again and again and again. Great. So all good. We've got the first behaviors being assigned to our characters, so we're totally fine. Probably now is a good time to save your scene. So let's move to should we do something more with those characters, or should we just stay here? Good questions. Let's do more. Let's introduce triggers. So right now, all those characters, they do the same stuff at the same time. So if I want them to do something different, for example, I need to introduce something we called triggers. So let's open this. Let's speak about triggers and let's speak about the flow. So first thing first, if you're in a simulation mode, if you select a character in your viewport, you usually get the visual feedback window appearing, so you can inspect what's the posture the character is in, what behaviors is playing, if when he's playing a behavior, what frame of it is playing. So I can see that guy here is playing frame 1 of the 30 frames of an animation called walk normal. And I've been loading multiple motion files, so probably those guys there, they're playing a faster animation file. That guy is playing walk fast, he's at frame 3, etc., etc., etc. So you can inspect what's going on when you pick a character within the viewport. Also, when you pick a character within the viewport, you can see which behaviors is being run right now. Because we'll see that we can enable or disable some behaviors depending on some situations. So let's say I would like my character to stop playing that animation as soon as they reach a zone. There's a zone, and when they go above that zone, they just stop playing any single animation they have. So we're going to introduce something we call triggers. You may have noticed that here on your behaviors, on the left side and the right side, there are arrows that you can apparently select. So those arrows are what we call triggers. They specify when does that behavior start. So that guy here defines, it's kind of a door, which is either open or closed, and that state can change for the whole duration of the simulation. So am I allowed to start that behavior? Am I allowed to stop that behavior? So when simulation starts, the flow will go from here. It will go through that arrow. It will ask, can I start? And we'll see later if how does that work? Why does the behavior start right away? And it will go on the other side right away during the first frame, and it's going to ask, can I stop? And that guy will probably say no. And while it's not stopping, it means that we'll keep playing that motion again and again and again and again and again. And if at some point that door say yes, you can go through, that motion will stop and we'll continue and go into the end of our simulation. So let's talk about triggers. Why does a motion start right away and why does it never stop? If I click on the double click on the left trigger, this is my start trigger. When does that behavior here start? If I double click on here, I can see that my trigger, my default trigger, is saying here true. So should I get through this? Should I start? And the answer for that guy, we call this the Boolean trigger. So it always returns true. Every single time you're asking, it returns true, 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 true. So that's a default trigger. You don't use it, and you don't set this on purpose. It's like more the default value we set for you on the behavior. Usually your job is more about changing that trigger. And why does it never stop? If we check the stop trigger, so we double click on the stop trigger, we've got another tab here opening. We've got the start here. and the stop there, start and stop. You can close the previous one and you can reopen it from here. It says false. So it means that here, the behavior, when the simulation starts, you go for that door. Can I go through? The answer is yes. Can I go out? The answer is no. So that motion will keep being played again and again and again and again. Okay, so now we've got another interface we can play with and we can interact with and add more nodes into. Okay, quick question for you. Let's say I want to say when my characters reach a polygon, I want to stop. If you got the hover and the tool clips which are enabled, I'll let you check what are the different options which are available to you, and let me know which trigger you'd like to use if you want your characters to stop when they're into a zone. Let's look at the icons. Maybe there's one we'll look to something convenient. Okay, someone is proposing the collision trigger. So collision trigger means that you'll be able to figure if you're in collision with something. It's actually, you know what? It's actually a good answer. This is not something I expected to, but it would work with a couple of settings. It will work, but the collision trigger, maybe its limit. It's like it's using the physics engine. So we're gonna do plenty of physics computation collisions. It will work, but probably not the most ideal. The distance trigger is proposed here. Also, it's a good answer. This is not something I would have expected, but actually you can ask if your distance with a zone is 0, and that will mean you'll be into the zone. So it will be into the mesh. So it would probably work as well. I've seen polygon zone popping here and there, and that's more something I will be introducing here. And also it's because it's more optimized and it has more options, so you'll have more controls. The paint options is also a good answer, but you'll have to paint some colors on that polygon, which is totally fine. But let's say we do just a regular Maya mesh and we want to have our characters stopping with the minimal settings and the fastest possible in terms of settings. We'll use the polygon zone trigger. So let's use that polygon zone trigger is the third one. It looks like a Maya plane with some subdivision. If we over it with the mouse, you have something, so it tells polygon zone, start or stop a behavior by returning true when the position of the root bone of an entity is contained in a polygon zone. And what's the rest? The polygon zone being represented by a Maya polygon or a group of polygons. So great, let's drag and drop this. So here we really want to make sure that we are into the stop trigger. So let's go into the stop trigger, make sure you are in the right tab here. Your default Boolean trigger should be false. So always returning false. So what we want to do is drag and drop a polygon trigger. So I'm going to drag and drop it, and you can see once again, like before, it's grayed out, looks like it's not really active. And if we play the simulation, we'll not see anything really specific going on here. So if we want to make it active, you need to right click on it and use the set as root. So set as root is just to tell that this is the part of the graph you want to evaluate. If you're familiar with Houdini or Katana or all those tools, you know, you can build some really complicated graph, but only ask some part of the graph being evaluated. So this is exactly what the set as root does. So that set as root means that now we've got that blue arrow next to it. So it means that now it's the trigger being active for our characters. And I can see just the question from Close. The motion shape has an icon with moving character and green arrow. Mine doesn't have the arrow. I've got the green arrow here, and it's in green here because I've been selecting a character within the viewport and I'm having an active simulation. It means that right now, that character is playing that behavior. If I unselect my characters, I go back into the previous state. So no big deal. Okay. So polygon zone, let's maybe pay attention to those attributes. So I can select it once again, and I can check within the attribute editor what's available. So what's available is apparently like a drop down where I can put some polygons into it. So here I just selected my polygon zone, and now I can see the different options. So I've got a polygon list, which is empty. So let's connect some polygons into this. Then I've got a 2D, 3D option. So I'm going to ask, do you want to evaluate if your characters are contained within the volume? Let's say you do a cube or a sphere, you can check, are you within that cube or within that sphere? Or if you just do a plane, are you above or below that zone? So is your geometry in 2D or in 3D? So here we'll just do surfaces, so it will be a 2D check. Keep in mind that the 3D check is just a bit more expensive because we're going to do raycast above and below to make sure we are contained within the zone, but no big deal. And are those polygons keyframed or deformed, which means are they dynamic and are they moving into the scene, or are they static? Is just, once again, an optimization to have faster simulation. If your zones are not keyframed, just stick with the default settings. So what I'll do is I'll create a zone in my scene where I want my characters to stop. So I'll make I'll make a plane that I put where it's convenient for me. Let's put it here, for example. And that'll be the zone in which I want my characters to stop. So you can create multiple zones if you want, because you can map multiple polygons into that trigger stuff. So, okay, I just make a plane, whatever. And here it's just a bit tricky. To connect the two together, what you want to do is first select the plane, then still into with the plane selected, you press shift, so it's the arrow going above, shift, and you click on the trigger, so my polygon zone trigger, and you can see here my selection of the plane is still there. So once again, you select first the zone, one or multiple zones together. You use the shift key to keep the selection and select the trigger together. So now we've got first polygons being selected, then trigger being selected. And now into the UI, I can press on the map button, and you will map my current selection into my trigger. So I'll do it once again. So once when you are into the polygon zone, you can, by the way, select anything here, and you can unmap those if you want. So let's remap it. I'm going to select my zone, and you know what? I'm going to make also a second one. Let's put one here. Okay, so let's select my two polygons, press shift, and map it. And now I've got my two planes being attached to my trigger. So now I'm saying that my behavior will play until my characters reach a zone, because what I've been changing is the stop trigger of the motion behavior. And let's check it works properly. And here we go. So now we've got characters walking, and as soon as they hit the border of the zone, they just stop right away. Can you middle mouse drag it into the area? That's a good question. I don't know. I'm not sure if we implemented this. Let me check. If I take this, okay, if I select the zone from here, select the behavior, I have no idea. Well, you know what? I'm not really a big expert of my interface, so I'll let you check. But let me know. So I'll just do the operation again in case you missed it. So the first thing I did is I went into the stop trigger of my motion behavior. I double click on it. The initial state was looking like this. You've got that false default trigger. What I did is I bring a polygon zone trigger into the game. I right click on it to make it active, set it as root. It's empty right now. So what you want to do is select the two planes, select the zones you want to attach it to. Shift. So shift is, once again, it's the key with the arrow up. And so you can see that now my selection in the outliner is still active. my trigger is active too. I've got my trigger interface here, and I can map those two together. Great. And now when I play my simulation, I've got characters ending their walk animation as soon as they're into the zone. So let me know who reached that point, who's still with me with the zone stuff. Put a okay or I'm good or whatever, just to know if I lost some of you, or you're still there. Okay, you're still there. Great, excellent. Oh, that's okay. That's a pretty fair amount of people, so I'm kind of proud of you and proud of me too. Great. Okay, let's so one may say, you know what, they're all stopping here when they are into the zone, which makes sense because we've been asking them to stop as soon as they are into the zone. So let's maybe do something more organic. Maybe I want to have my characters to delay when they're into the zone, they stop, but I want them to delay exactly when they stop. So we may have characters maybe stopping here or stopping there. So let's maybe have another trigger there. Do we play the same game than before? Let's say I want to have a delay on my character, on my triggers. Which trigger you'd like to use? I'll let you go through. There's not many of those, so the answer relies into the triggers tab once again. So what would you do? Distance is a crazy trigger. Distance is still a good option, but if we use distance, we probably have all the characters handing at the right distance. Frame will mean that you specify a frame at which the characters stop, and all the characters will stop at the same time. So not the best, I guess. Expression will work. We can put some random expression within it, but I haven't seen the answer yet. I was expecting to see it. Random behavior time. Behavior time. They will stop at the same, so that will not be great. Okay, I'm starting to see the answer. Okay, the fade one. Fade is quite a good option here. It's the last trigger, so I kind of trapped you because I know most of you guys do it in the order they are in. So yeah, fade will be probably a great option to start with. So let's quickly do this. We'll do a fade, and the way. So how do we connect that fade? So we want to connect it as once again as a graph. So we want to first tell the characters, okay, as soon as you are in the zone, this is the moment you stop that motion. But I want this to happen with some fading on it. So once you're into the zone, please evaluate a fading option. So what I've been doing here is I've been creating like a sequence of my triggers. So first I want to evaluate one trigger. And once that trigger is successful, I want to jump into the second one. So I'm doing an arrow using the middle click button to say, first, check if you're in the zone. If you're in the zone, okay, let's fade that stop. So what I did once again is you've got your 2D root trigger here, polygon zone trigger. You bring a fade. And you make an arrow between the 2D and the fade. And now you can see the fade becomes the active node because you've been creating a connection between it. If it's not a blue arrowed yet on your side, you can just click and set as root. And now you have your sequence of triggers. So let's see how we configure that fade trigger. So first, we need to specify on how many frames we would like to fade that decision. So here the default is 10 frames. So it means that the characters, they're going to the polygon zone and they'll stop within the next 10 frames. So it's not exactly what I want. I want to have maybe a more longer duration here. So I'm probably going to tell, I don't know, I want to use 200 frames. So duration is in frame here. I'm going to say, okay, as soon as you enter the zone, you end up within the 200 next frames. And once you set up your frame, you want to draw your curve. You want to draw how does the fading looks like. So right now my curve is set up to 1. So you've got your curve control here. It's a regular Maya curve control. And one all along means that what are the probability for frame. So let's consider here, this is your times. So this is all your frame. So what's the probability here at frame 0 that I'm going to stop? And my probability is 1. So 1 means true, means the maximum value. So it means that here my delay, my fade is not doing anything. The characters will stop right away. So what we want to have is have probably at the beginning, none of the character will stop. And at the end, all of them will stop and some will stop in between. I can maybe do something like a logarithmic curve to have really little people stopping and at the end, more people stopping. Let's rewind the sim and let's play. And now we can see characters are entering the zone and some are getting into different distances, but still 150 frames is not high enough. I can probably put more here, 500. And now you get something more organic rather than having that really hard limit of the polygon specifying where to stop. Now you get something organic where the people are randomly stopping using a kind of a fade trigger there. Not bad. Okay, great. So here, let's go through for the people who have the right rendering engine. So probably now it's a good time to save your scene. For the people who have everything properly installed, they have the shaders in their scene, so on and so forth. Let's move to rendering. So if you don't mind, I'll just switch my Maya session. I have a Maya session where I have my Arnold engine being set up properly. So let's go there and let's see. Okay, let's see if my setup is better from here. M2A, okay, it's loaded. And sorry, I just need to reload the shaders on my side. You don't have to do this, just wait for me for a moment. I need to clean my scene too. And delete unused nodes. Okay, and just re-import my shaders and hopefully that will work this time. So my assets are gonna be into C, Pro, Golem, character pack, Golem, shaders, casual man light, Arnold. Yay! Okay, and now this is more what I expect. Okay, great. So let's come back to where we were. So let's say now that we want to render that scene and that will end up the quick overview of the workflow. We haven't covered a lot of behaviors. We'll speak about more behaviors in the next sessions, but today I just wanted you to show what's the casual workflow. So you first import your types, place your characters, assign behaviors, and now you want to send them to rendering. So for people where the rendering engine works, will follow through, and even people who don't have the rendering engine can go through exporting the scene. So now we'll want to export the simulation results. Here we need to, it's kind of annoying every time we make a change. We need to run every single frame. And let's say I want to see frame 30. It's a pain because I have to rewind and replay again and see what does frame 30 looks like. So let's bake those simulation results. So we'll move forward into the shelf and we'll tackle that guy here. That guy here is closed into two separators, is alone within it, and it's the simulation exporter. If we look at the tooltip, it tells that it handles and export the simulation as a Golem simulation cache. So let's open that guy here. And now we can now we have the simulation exporter. And yes, everything is recorded and it will be posted into the YouTube channel, so you can leave whenever you want. And good luck with the vaccine. So simulation exporter just tells you where you'd like to export that cache. So by default, we're going to export this into your project, into your project, into the cache directory. It also takes the name of your scene and put this as the cache name. And it also decides what's the start frame and the end frame of your simulation. So here it takes the time frame of my Maya scene. So 1,500 frame, it's way too long. I can probably reduce this to maybe 200. So set those the way you want to, change your cache name if you want, change your start frame, end frame, so you can decide which part of the crowd you'd like to export, which um, frames of your crowd you'd like to export, what's the directory you'd like to export in, and when you're good with that, you just press the export button. The scene will run for you, and as soon as it's done, you'll have an in-view message, and also you'll see that the timeline has changed color for the frames you've been exported. So let's close this for the, well, let's redo this just for people who haven't followed this. So I'll go back into my simulation mode. So let's say you'd like to export this. You need to open the simulation exporter. Select what's the name of the cache, where you'd like to export this, what's the first frame and the end frame. And when you're good, you press the export button, and it will run the simulation for you, export it as a Golaem cache. And when it's done, now you can see that you can change the time freely within the range you've been deciding. So let's change my time range and move within it. So that green frame stuff here at the bottom tells you which frame have been exported and what you're able to see within your cache replay. So we are in a separate mode. We are in cache replay mode. So we are not into simulation mode. It means that now if I change my behaviors or so on and so forth, I will not see the result of this within my timeline, because what I'm watching right now is the result of my simulation export. If you want to go back into simulation mode, you need to click on that last button. So please ignore the thing you have. The thing I have here is something specific to my system here, which just reminds me which version I'm actually running. On your side, you should have a locker, which tells you are in PLE, but right before, you can see you got a guy walking with that cache icon next to it. It's a toggle button. So it means that if you click on it, you can see it has changed, and now it's a character with the behavior editor. So now you're back into behavior mode, simulation mode. If you click on it again, now you're back into simulation mode, cache replay mode. So cache replay mode is the mode in which you can render your characters in. So when you've got that green time frame here, it means that your characters, they're probably ready to render. So we'll try rendering the crowd. So this is where only the people who have the right rendering engine and the right versions will be able to render the crowds. So make sure you are on one of those green frame. Make sure that you set up your version of your rendering engine properly. So sorry, I have the, can I hide the floating? Okay, great. I am gonna, so I'm in Arnold, so I go into the Arnold light mode to create a sky dome. I'm probably gonna create also a polygon just to make a ground. And right before pressing the render button, because depending on the size of the crowd, you may have like a really massive and gigantic crowd, and you don't want to, throw a rendering if nothing is set up properly or if something is missing. So before rendering, what you can do is next to the button which allows you to toggle from the simulation to the cache replay mode, you've got a checker which is checking your settings. So click on it to check if everything is fine. So here it's saying that I'm using Maya software and it's not supported, so shame on me. Let's define Arnold as my rendering engine. Okay, and let's use the checker. So as soon as I open the checker, it checks everything for me, which is regarding rendering. So it checks if everything has been exported properly, if my cache is valid. So my cache has been saved with the Personal Learning Edition. So this is why I'm getting a PLE status here. So it will not forbid me to render. I will just have the watermarks. Is the version of M2A supported? Maybe because it's not, the system doesn't know if I have installed the DLL properly. So it's telling you that you should probably check if you installed the DLL properly, because I'm using 4.2, which is not the default installed version. And if everything else is set up to yes, it means that now you can go into your render view, and render your crowd. So it's converting the textures, and if everything goes well, and if I done my job properly today, you should get, like me, your characters being rendered pretty efficiently. You can see here I have 500 characters rendered in 5 seconds with an Arnold. And now you can guess what's the watermark. Okay, who is able to get the rendering working? So probably less people than the previous steps, but let's see if we were good until that step. Okay, that's great. A couple of people are able to get this. Well done. And well done, you got your first crowd being rendered. Quick word about the PLE. You may notice that the way we watermark rendering is by shading random meshes in orange. So depending on the rendering engine you're using, by the way, if you're using V-Ray or RenderMan, the colors may be slightly different, but the final step is always the same. Some meshes are not shaded and they get the default shaders being applied. It's a random assignment. Some guys have the face being orange, some guys it's the arm, some guys it's the t-shirt, whatever. But as soon as you've got the characters appearing, you're good. It means you went through the old tutorial from A to Z. Okay, let's go through the different questions. I entered the 2D trigger and added the fade, but it's not working. It's full opacity. Do I need to set it as root? It's not same as the 2D trigger. So I'll review this right now. If for now, if my shaders are not working properly, I can render it to without the default shading mode. Yeah, if you don't have the shaders in your scene, if you haven't loaded the shaders into your scene, but the rendering engine works, you still should get the characters appearing anyway. So if you want to make sure that your rendering engine is supported, also using the checker is a good preview step before rendering to check that everything is fine. You may miss shaders, but it's not a big deal. You just have geometry not being shaded, but not a big deal. Okay, I answered this live. I can. How do I choose the Arnold rendering? How do you choose rendering? Well, that's a basic. That's a Maya questions, I guess. I just switch into rendering mode here, and I go into render using Arnold renderer. I invite you to maybe watch that tutorial later to see how I assign that step. So let's go back with the triggers. Maybe there's some people who haven't really figured this properly. So my trigger here. So well, it's not, you know, it's not a big deal if you haven't figured that. We'll go into triggers a bit later and do another scene a bit later. But just quickly, what I did is I had my 2D polygon zone trigger, which was selected. What I wanted to do is added some fade. So I bring the fade trigger and I connect them as a sequence. First, I would like my characters to make sure that they are in the zone, and then I want to fade. This is my first condition to evaluate, and once that condition is fulfilled, I'd like to go through that. So my fading here, I want to define how long it will stand for. How long do I want my characters to be able to fade? So by default, it's 10 frame. 10 frame is not really long. It's not even half a second. So we'll not be able to see this a lot. So I want to probably increase this here, put 500. And I also want to draw the right curve. So by default, the curve always say that frame 0, 100% of my crowd will stop. Frame 1, 100% of my crowd will stop. So it's not really what we want. We want to have something more like a linear fading. We want to have small amount of characters fading at the beginning, and then more and more, and then more and more, and then more and more. So what I'll do is just create another curve here to say, okay, at the beginning of my 500 frames, I don't want much characters to stop. And the more and more we go to the end of it, we want to have more and more characters to fade. Once again, we'll speak about triggers later. You can still review that video later to check that you've been doing everything good so far. So all the people who have rendering problems, I really encourage you, first, use the checker, make sure that your version is supported and align within it. If you got the same error than me before, here I've got in my previous session, oops, let's roger that. In my previous session, I guess is this one here, I've got my character, which is green. it's full green. Here it's because the shaders I'm having into the scene, they're not correct. So make sure that the rendering engine is loaded. That's the right version. And if everything says okay for you within that box here, if you got like the green check here, you got everything okay except the PLE, and you still don't have rendering, make sure that here you are on the green frame. And if you really don't have anything being rendered, please send us the render log. So when the Arnold renders, it makes some errors, displays some errors. So maybe check the errors first. And if it's cryptic for you, just send us a message regarding this, and we'll try to help you regarding this. So the right way, if it's a rendering issue and you've checked everything, no need to go through the Discord. Probably the best way will be go through the support form. So it's support.golem.com, and make sure to fill everything to specify the versions that you are using, the rendering engine version, the Maya version you're using. Provide the render log, provide as many data as you can, else we're going to ask for it anyway, but it will be less interaction and less mails to deal for us. So just send us the message, and really make sure that before you send us a message, your rendering engine is within that list. And if it's not within that list, if it's within that list, you manually install the plugin. So once again, refer to the session. We've been speaking about this at the beginning. If you're using Arnold 4.2 or V-Ray 5 or Renderman 22.5, you need to manually install the plugins. Anyway, so congrats everybody to go through the first crowds. And it's been 2 hours we've been running this session. So I propose we make a half session break. So it will be longer. So let's catch up in 15 minutes. So let's round that to, so right now it's almost 8 p.m. here. So let's meet again at 8:15. I'll take a break and probably also have dinner because I'm starving. And my mouth is dry speaking too much. See you in 15 minutes. Hey, again, I'll just before we keep going, just answer the couple of questions I can see here. I'm not sure if Francois is still back. If you are, just let me know. Yeah, okay, great. So I installed, question was, I installed the VRA5 plugin for Maya 2020. On the CPU side, it works fine. The GPU shows how the non-orange texture match renders black. Any suggestion? To be honest, I never tested the VRA5 GPU. It's not been really popular amongst our customers, so I'll have to check this later. If it's production critical, probably it's worth sending us like a support message so we can check for ourselves and maybe see how we move forwards if it's a official feature request or something else. My Maya crashes when rendering the scene. Oh, that's bad. So that's probably because your rendering engine was not aligned with the current version we have. So I'm not sure which rendering engine you were using. The question comes from someone called Arnaud. Probably if you don't have, the right, I think it's VRA was quite aggressive when you didn't have the right version. And can you share use so I can follow the next steps? Well, we'll move to something else. No need for the scene, else you can just grab any scene from the character pack and try. Yeah, we'll move to something else. So no problem if we'll start from scratch, something else. Enter live. I uninstall 739 for Maya 2017 and reinstalled it and does not Arnold as an option. That's a good one. I think there's a possibility that for Arnold 2017, there's no support for Arnold 4.2. Is it possible? So the question comes from someone called Ching, Xing. Which version of Arnold are you using? Let me know and I'll see if it's required. I think it doesn't have the compatibility directory because there's no 4.2 version for Maya 2017. So maybe that's the reason why. No big deal. Let me know just which version of Arnold you're using and maybe, or maybe we just forgot two packages. Okay, I'm not sure if everyone is back, but just quick word. If you're using Arnold 4.0, to be honest, we're not really used to see people using 4.0. It's the default Arnold version, which is installed within Maya 2018 or 20, maybe. This version was like released in a hurry, and it's kind of buggy. So no one uses it in production, to be honest. And well, long story short, we do not support it because they changed the libraries and so on. So there's a chance that maybe the checker tells you, yes, it's supported because we support every single 4.0 point something version except 4.0.0. So if you're using 4.0.0, you get okay everywhere, but still doesn't render. So this is the reason why you're not getting anything. So you will have to update to at least 4.0.1 or 4.1 or 4.2. So sorry about this. I totally forgot about 4.0.0. To be honest, people in production usually like don't use it because it's known like as an unstable version, and people switch to 4.0.1. It was released like in a hurry within Maya, and some testing were not fulfilled. Great. Let's move to something else. So schedule of the day was installation configuration, quick start. We went through this rendering. We went through this layout. I probably skip it and speak about this in the next next version. Maybe just a quick word about layout. You don't have to apply this for yourself right now. I just want to introduce you with layout. So just here, it will just be a quick follow so people can catch up later, and we'll switch to something else right after. So as I said, Golem is a simulation-based engine, and it's great. It means that it can do a lot of things. You can do, perception for your characters. You can do physics. You can do collisions and plenty of different stuff. But obviously, it's simulation. So it means that you don't really have control on an entity level of what's going on. Let's say, the director comes and see your shots and really likes it, but you never get it approved from the first time. You always have retakes to do. So let's say the director says, I don't want to have this character anymore. I want to reanimate that guy. I want to remove those guys there. I want to change the clothes of that guy. I want to put more guys here in the background. You've got two options. The first option is you go back to simulation and you change your behaviors until you reach that point. But as you can maybe feel from now, it's going to take a while to go back into simulation. And also, if you go back into simulation, you got the risk that you'll change your simulation result. Maybe if you had more characters and the scene has avoidance, the character will react differently and you have a different simulation because you've been adding or removing characters. So we introduce within the workflow a step which is post simulation edit. We call this layout. So it means that once the simulation has been cached, you've got the option to modify the cache and reshape it the way you want to. And that kind of operation you can apply, they're pretty intense, they're pretty deep. You can really shape completely your crowd and really change it in the way it behaves. You don't change the collisions, you don't change the physics, you just like relayouting your crowd, and this is why we've been calling this layout. So I'll just show you really, really quickly how does the layout comes into Golaem. But when we'll do the stadium, when we'll do the city, when we do the battles, we'll take more advantage of the layout because when you're going to be doing your assignment on your side, the layout will be really a key part to achieve the 100% you reach. Like simulation will help you reaching maybe 70, 80% of what you want. And layout will help you like reaching that 100% really fast. So the way it works is usually you just go into, let's maybe isolate my environment and my geometry. So I'm going to take all my geometry here, group them, and I'll make sure that I don't select them by enabling overrides. So here I go F9, which is a vertex mode within Maya. And now I can, so make sure you are in layout. So in cache replay, make sure it doesn't work in simulation, but when you're in layout, now you can select a bunch of characters and you can manipulate them the same way you would manipulate anything into Maya. So you can translate those characters, you can orient them. So I'm just using, the regular translate and orientation tools. You can scale them. If I scale into the word axis, I'm going to scale the characters, the distance between the characters. If I scale into the object mode, I'm going to scale the actual size of the characters. And this is just applied on top of the simulation cache. And all those operations I've been doing here, they get, so the layout tool is accessed from this button here. It's the walking guy with all the layers. And all the operations I've been applying on my characters, they are recorded. So we are in a non-destructive workflow. So you've got your cache, and on top of it, like within Photoshop, you're adding layers on top of your image without destroying your image. You're just adding deformations on top of your crowd. And what I've been doing here is I've been selecting those guys. So this is the selector node. I've been applying a translation, then a rotation, then expand to change the distance between those guys and scale them. And I can add more layers to my pile of layers. Let's say I want to remove those guys here. I can bring another selector. My selector selects those guys here. And I can like add a kill node. And that kill node means that now those guys doesn't exist anymore. Let's say I want to have more guys in the background. Maybe what I can do is select those guys there, select them, and apply a duplicate. So now duplicate means that I'm having twice more characters in the scene, and I can move that duplicate patch and have more characters. As they're exactly the same, they move the exact same way than the one next to them. I can also apply a time offset. I can move, like shift those guys in time so they play the cache 10 frames before, or 10 frames or more than 10 frames. So I can say, you know what, I want you to be 20 frames above the other guys. So that was before. after, and you can see those guys are slightly shifted. I can change asset assignment. Let's say that guy here. I really doesn't like, he's really, big on camera, and I don't like him to wear that sweatshirt here. What I can do is select that guy separately and just modify his mesh assignment. I don't want him to wear the sweatshirt, so let's zoom of the guy. I don't like him to wear the sweatshirt, so let's remove the sweatshirt, and let's add instead a t-shirt and also the biceps. And if I want to apply the same deformation to this guy here, I can just bring a new selector and connect it to the same deformation layer. And once again, everything I'm doing here is non-destructive. So there's plenty of layers. We'll deal with those when we'll be, in a real production scene. Tomorrow we'll do stadium. Stadium are really casual crowd stuff. If you're a crowd TD, one day in your career, well, maybe more than one day, but you'll do crowds in stadiums because they're super casual. So we'll see tomorrow how you apply layouts in an actual real concrete case, which layers you can take advantage of. Maybe something you can really end with, because that's something which is really neat, is let's say that guy here, you would like to, oops, let's select him. Okay, I'm going to select him, and let's say you're not really happy with his animation and you'd like to have an animator taking over his animation. I can bring a rig layer, and from that rig layer, I can create a rig node. And what it's going to do, it's going to create for me a complete iKey rig that you can give to an animator. And that animator, even if it's a crowd character which belongs to the crowd, you will be able to take all those controllers and reanimate, put keyframes everywhere, and all those operations that you are doing. It's something which only gets recorded onto the Golem layers. So if you want to remove, this is an animation layer basically. So if you want to remove that posture, you can. If you want to reapply that, you can. If you want to apply that to maybe that character, which is here, let's select that guy here. I can bring another selector and connect it to the rig and just get applied this full stuff. So you've got full iKey rig and the control on the pole vectors and control on everything. So this is like not brand new. We've been working on this is new in Golem 7. So Golem 7 is the latest big release. Like layout is really something a lot of studios are taking into account. And I think the huge success we had these past months among studios really rely on that tool, because simulation, all the package, they're more or less the same in terms of simulations, but that layout tool is really what makes us different. We've got really a lot of layers you can apply onto your characters to make them reach the vision of the director. And you can see it's full real time. You can have the director next to you. You don't have to relaunch the simulation again and again. And now you can just stack all those deformations. And we've got studios here. I just have, a few layers. I've got like 15 of those. But we've got studios who send us scenes to us. They got hundreds of layers in their scene. And when you look at the simulation, it doesn't look at all like the actual result. The result is amazing because they've got all those artists where, replacing the crowds correctly. And also in terms of workflow, it means that the crowd guy can concentrate on really making the simulation really neat. And you can have plenty of artists who doesn't know really Golem deeply, because here you can see it's just a matter of taking your characters, moving them differently in different places. So it's more like an artistic process than a technical process. So you can have more artists, layout-based artists who doesn't know Golem and the brain and the triggers and the behaviors, who can take over, lay out the crowds, change what they need, save the scene. And when you're done, you just save this here. It's going to be saved as a new, layout file. And if I render this now, so I've got my characters being, removed here. I've got twice more characters. I've got everything being applied, and now you've got your crowds, which renders with that new setup. Do we need to create a new cache after? No, you don't, because the layout is going to be highlighted at the top of the cache. So what you see from the viewport is what you get from the rendering time. If you want to apply and bake the layout on your cache, that's something you can do as well. But we really, we really advise people to non-destruct their caches, because having a flexible way, the more flexibility you got into the studio, the better, the more productive you are, we believe. There's a question which is also asking, can multiple artists use layout to work on the same cache but different sections of it? Yes, totally. That's the whole goal of it. This is something we'll speak about when we'll speak about workflow, when we'll do probably the stadium tomorrow. You can like make the cache, make a preset of your cache, and you can have multiple artists loading that preset and making their own layout version of it, because it's saving the file. So the layout, the destruction, well, not the destruction, the overrides you're doing on your crowd, they're saving different files. So you can have one artist taking one cache, making a completely different scene than one artist taking the same cache and reapplying other deformations there. Can you explain again how to select characters that are cached? I can't get it done. They're not selectable. We'll speak about that tomorrow, but it's I'm using F9 vertex mode within Maya. I also like remove the pop tool. I also like make sure that my environment is not selectable. So yeah, F9 vertex mode, and you just marquee selection your characters. But we'll go. Don't bother too much with that. We've got tutorials if you want to follow this in between, but we'll go into much details regarding this later. Okay, so that was the layout. That was a really quick introduction. You can guess that there are many layers you can take advantage of, and that's something that's really a big tool that people are taking advantage. Also, we've got Houdini integration. So the layout tool is available within Houdini. We've got Katana and Unreal. So if your studio is working with any of those packages and you want to bring your crowds and lay out your crowds within those packages, that's something which is available too. The tool is in Python and Qt, so it's available into the other packages we are actually supporting. So okay, that was a really quick read about the layout. We'll dive into way more details in the following sessions. But in the meantime, we've got plenty of videos which cover that tool if you want to play with this. So yeah, probably I haven't really defined, I haven't really spoke about this, but yes, you can render your crowd offline. You can render your crowd in Unreal if you want, with Houdini, with Katana, with 3ds Max. So simulation always takes place into Maya, but you can bring and lay out your crowds into other packages. Check our website to see what's supported right now. And also check Golem 8, which is, well, it's not announced yet, but we're going to announce it soon. And it will bring the possibility to run simulation in other packages than Maya. That's going to be the great addition to it. So it's a kind of, a new announcement I'm doing today. Okay, let's move to the rest of the party. So we wanted to see how we can convert our own characters and convert our own motion and speak about the terrain. So we've got an hour and a half to cover that part. So let's go. So I'm gonna, well, save that scene, let's say, and go with a blank new scene. So let's say you've got your own character, which has been made by a rigger and a modeler. It's fully skinned, and you want to bring that guy within Golem. So as an example, we're going to take one of the character from the character pack. So what you can do is go within File, Open. And what we're going to open is go into the Golem character pack, see Golem character pack, Golem lowercase, and go into the shaders directory. And maybe let's do a different character. So the shaders directory are Maya files, and we're opening those guys. We're taking those guys because they are Maya files with the skeleton and the skinning and everything. So we're going to use them as a starting point for the crowd. Maybe we'll do at the end. We've got something called the tune character. So let's not take any of the rendering version. Let's take tune character underscore default. And let's open that within the Maya scene. And okay, it doesn't have any shaders. Let's check this. This file is from an older version of Maya. Okay, I'm not sure why I don't have any. Okay, if it's green like you, let's do a new scene. If you have the same problem, so I'm not sure what's the problem with that file. So else, if I'm here, I'm using Arnold into my scene. Else, you can just take the toon character, which belongs to your rendering engine. If you're using V-Ray, Redshift, Renderman, or Arnold, and hopefully it will be better. It is. Okay. Well, okay. If it's green, probably, if it's green on your side, I'm not sure. We probably saved it with some node I do not support into my Maya session. But whatever. Just create a new scene to delete this and import a character from your own rendering engine. So going to a new here. I know that I have Arnold loaded. So C Golem character 739 Golem shaders, and I go with toon character underscore AR, which stands for Arnold. And this is how the characters looks like. Okay, so quick word about characters. When you are crowd TD, you need to have an eye on almost every single department. We've been doing something called crowd artist stories, and we've been interviewing crowd artists we know very well. You can find those on our website. And if you read those interviews, they speak about their career, how they went into crowds, and what makes it really specific as a separate job. And if you look at the free interviews we've been doing, they're all saying the same thing, which crowd is great or bad for probably the same reason, because it touches every single department of your pipeline. It means you don't do everything, obviously, but you need to speak with the riggers because you have some rigging specifications to provide to them. You need to speak with the animation team because the animation team needs to provide you some specific clips. You need to speak with the shading and the lighting team because you want to have shading variation on your characters. Then you speak with the FX people because they're going to be applying, an effects to your crowd. You need to speak with the lighting people and the rendering because you're going to throw 10,000, 100,000, 500,000 characters into rendering, and you want them to be aware about that and how you can optimize this. So you need to have an eye on almost every single department, and to be able to drive them into the right direction, to make them provide you assets or provide assets to them which are correct into the pipeline. So when you need to bring a new characters, you need to speak with the riggers and make sure that they create a character and they follow the specification which are required. So whatever the package you are using, one of the main prerequisites for the character is that you need to have a skeleton. And that skeleton needs to be one piece of hierarchy. So if you got a modular hierarchy, that's fine for the animators, but somewhere on your characters, you need to have one hierarchy of bones all connected together. You can have the modular on top of it for animators and the rigs on top of it if you want to control that. But really what's really a strong prerequisite on every single crowd package you provide, it can be My Army, Massive, Houdini, or Atoms Crowd, or us. It's always the same. You need to have one chain, one tree of bones, and that character followed that rules. You can see that here at some point I've got a root bone, and that root bone, if I select it, it selects every single bone of it. And onto that hierarchy, my geometry is actually skinned. So if I grab a bone, any of it, you can see that the geometry moves, and you can change it. So as soon as you got this, you're good. That's the only thing you need, geometry applied on top of one piece of skeletons. Regarding what we support every single skinning. We support skinning method you can have. We support blend shapes, any kind of blend shape that you may have on your characters. Anything more in terms of deformers will be skipped. The reason for that is because we rebuild ourselves the geometry at render time. So we need to know exactly how a deformer performs. So this is why we only support skinning and blend shape, else it's hard to reverse engineer every single deformer. But it's evolving. That's something we're working on in the next versions. We probably have a more powerful situation. But in the meantime, skinning, blend shapes, but with that, people can already do like a lot of amazing things. You can have speaking characters reacting. You can have blend shapes for muscles, simulation, and that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's move with this character. So let's go back into the shelf. Let's say we want to apply and create a Golaem character out of this. And I can see a question popping. Can you change scale, joint, offset to vary cars? To make a variation of characters. So yes, and I'll show that during that tutorial. So, okay, if we go back to the shelf, what we want to do is convert that character. So we'll jump into the second icon. And if I hover it with my mouse, I've got Character Maker, which converts characters and motions in the Golem crowd format. So if you remember earlier during the session, we've been loading into Maya a GCHA, so Golem character file, so that crowd man, casual man character that we were playing with. It was already converted. So what we'll do is we're going to use that tool here to create a Golem character version of that character. So I open that tool, and it appears, it's quite dry when you look at it. So let me kind of maybe break it into parts. So first, you've got that drop down in the left top corner. And that drop down allows you to change between 3 modes: character, motion, motion mapping. So depending on the kind of file you want to convert, you need to change the mode. So it's like the same stuff than here if you're in modeling, rigging, animation. So here it's character, motion, or motion mapping. So character is to convert a character, motion is to convert a motion, and motion mapping is to make the mapping between a character and motion. Most of the time you don't really need that because Golem has it as an automatic mode to do this for you. But sometimes it happens that you may want to provide it yourself. So let's stick into the character mode. And when we are in character mode, we can see that we've got that panel here, which is mostly grayed out, except that button here, which is load selected skeleton. So if I click on it, oops, sorry, I had the skeleton selected. Let's say I don't have anything selected. If I click on it, it will tell me, okay, please select one and only one joint node to load your character. So I'm gonna select my root node for my character. So the node which controls and which is the father of every other node from the scene. So it's within the, the character is named Michel. And if you open it, you can see it has something called joint root, GNT_root, and it has all the hierarchy right below it. So what we'll do is we're going to select that root bone here, and we're going to load the selected skeleton. So as soon as I click on that button here, I've got prompt with what's the up axis of this character and what's the front axis of this character. So we are asking you some data about how does the character looks like. So here my character is facing the Z axis and the up axis is Y. So up axis is Y, front axis is Z. So far so good. I can okay this. If I look at my scene outliner, I can see I'm handling with a new node, which is called Character Maker Locator. And if I click on it, I can't really see what's going on here. So what I can do is probably move it a bit forward, my character, to see exactly what's going on. So here, I've just translated my node because by default, it's aligned with the skeleton. So when it's aligned, we don't really see it. So here, I'm just moving it, and I can see something which looks like the character skeleton. So far, so good. So, okay, what else do we need to set now? We can see that as soon as we loaded the skeleton, now we've got a blank area here. So we'll have to work this later. And maybe if we start with the default options we have, we've got something called the detection mode. So just a quick word, within Golem, we can do, you may have noticed like earlier, we've been loading a character and we've been loading some motions and we didn't really care about, does that motion fit that character? Is it the same rig? Is it the same skeleton? So, I didn't even think about it. I just pick a character, pick a motion, and didn't really make my mind about, is it the right 5 format for that character? Is it the same number of joints? The reason for this is because within Golem, we've got automatic motion retargeting. So we don't care about motions. We don't care about characters. We can always replay a character on the motion, a motion on a character. It doesn't mean it will always look great. Obviously, if you bring the horse character and you play a human walk, that'll be a disaster. But we allow it. But if you take a biped animation and you played it on another biped character, it will work pretty well right away. And the reason for this is because we are like providing some data about what are the eye keys of the character. Well, so where's the arm and where does it start from and where does it end? Where's the spine? Where's the head? And we provide that data for every single character. So when we apply a motion, we kind of know how does the character looks like and how we apply a motion on that guy. And also for that to work properly, we need to have a T-pose which specify how does the character looks like when nothing is applied on it. So this is the goal of the detection mode. So detection mode, there are three different modes. The default mode is joint orient. If you're a rigger, joint orient, you're probably familiar with that. This is where most riggers store the T-pose or the initial pose of their characters. This is the default orientation of a joint. So if you got a character which is made by a great rigger, which knows his job super well, you're kind of sure that you can use the joint orient information right away, and you'll get a T-pose. Even if my character, even if like I move my character and I change his position, let's do this. I'm gonna change his position. No need to do it on your side. But let's say I do it on my side and I load my skeleton again. Let's select the root and load the skeleton up here. You'll see that as we read the joint orient, the locator doesn't get affected at all because from the joint orient, we read the right data. If we were using current values, and actually, you know what? I haven't. So not sure why, but it's not following. Let's redo this from scratch. Failed to find the joint. Okay, here we go. What about? So okay, I'm not sure exactly why it doesn't follow. Well, actually, if I was using current values and it was working, probably I would have my characters like folding his arm rather than having it elsewhere. But whatever. You just so the goal is you just change the detection mode until you figure a right T-pose for your character. So joint orient reads the joint orient data from the character. Bind pose reads the Maya bind pose node. Once again, is another node where you can store your T-pose. Riggers know this. So you just ask them, put the T-pose somewhere convenient, either joint orient or bind pose. And current values is supposed to read the data from the bones, but okay, apparently I'm having like kind of a keyframe stuff or constraint stuff. Okay, I'm having a keyframe on my character, so this is why it was not reading this properly. So let's break this and remove this and reanimate this once again to see. Okay, and let's load that once again. Great. Okay, and there we go. And we can see if you set current values now, you can see that now the character maker locator is following my posture, which is in the scene. So sometimes when you're getting motion capture animation, you don't have always the T-pose being stored into the joint orient, or you don't have a bind pose because it's a motion capture. But the guy from at the start of the motion, he made you a T-pose. So you can use the current values mode to read this and use this as your T-pose there. So what the takeaway of that, to make it short, is we want to have a neutral pose of the character. So it can be a T-pose, A pose, but what we want to have is really like extended limbs, almost at maximum. So arms are slightly folded on the elbow. If you take a look on the character, it's not like fully extended. There's a small flexion on it. The fingers are exactly the same. They're not fully extended. They have a slight flexion on it. Same goes with the spine. Same goes with the knees, the toes, if you got any toes on your characters. So, the whole point is that like define a T-pose, define what's the neutral posture where nothing is applied onto that character. So let's go back to my actual default mode here, and we're good. So once you've defined that, well, it's the big part of the job being done. And the next part is to define how does my skeleton looks like in terms of eye key. I was referring earlier, you need to define what's an arm, what's a leg, what's a spine, what's a root bone. And this is where we're going to do, we're going to take usage of that area here. You can see that area is completely blank, and we're going to start making some stuff with it. So
what we can do is drag and drop. Once again, we've got the nodal editor here, and we can drag and drop some nodes. So we've got 4 types of nodes. We've got a hips node, we've got a spine node, some limbs to represent the arms and the legs and the tail or the neck, and some effector to do fingers, jaws, toes, um, wings, maybe, whatever you have onto your character. And the fact it's nodal means that you can have any kind of creatures. You can have 6-legged creatures with 2 arms and 40 wings. That will work because you can just connect those nodes together and create your character. So first things first, the character has a root bone. So let's bring a root bone, and you can see that root bone here. So I just drag and drop the hips shape bone here into my scene, and I end up with that rounded square, and you can see it has a red dot which needs to be populated. So I'm going to left click on it. I end up with the list of joints, and I'm going to define what's the root of my character. So the bones are listed by the order they're in. So here my root bone is actually the GNT underscore root. So I'm just going to select this, and you can see that now that field comes with something. So there's a question. Put your questions into the question and answer section, guys. But still, I can read it from the chat box. So there's a question which is no problem. What do we do if the rig has a root bone on the 0 of the word? So I mean, if you've got something which is on the ground, that's fine. What you just want to provide as a ips is going to be the ips bone. So for example, the casual man we've been playing with, it has we call that floor ref. So it has a bone which is on the floor. So what I provide as a ips is going to be the actual real ips on the character. No problem with that. So you really map what you need and what really belongs to the character. As soon as we map this, if we check here, we can see that now the character maker locator has a brown color around the hips. And by the way, if you select the locator, and like me, it's not big enough, you can go into the attribute editor of the shape, and you can increase the bone radius to make it more visible into your scene. I'm going to turn off the ragdoll volumes to avoid having that sphere around my root. But now I can see my root is mapped, and it will work. So next, my character has a spine. So let's bring the spine node, and let's say the spine is a children of the root. There's a hierarchy. First, there's a root, which is the parent of my legs and of the spine. So let's define that hierarchy. So I can use the middle mouse and drag a connection like we did it into the behavior editor. I can drag a connection from the parent to the children. And my spine node, it has 2 controllers to specify what's the what's the start of it and what's the end of it. So I'm going to click on the first spine bone, which is on the left. And I'm going to say, okay, my first bone is spine 1. And the system is intelligent. So as soon as you select this as the first spine bone, what you get here will be only the children of that spine 1 bone. So I can say it goes from spine 1 to spine 5. And now we can see that within the outliner, we've got an orange chain, which is corresponding to my spine node, which is orange. And now we've got that weird shape here. That weird shape is what is called the pull vector. So this is the direction in which your spine will fold when it folds. So here it means that when the characters will fold, let's say you've got an animation where the characters need to move forward and the spine folds, it means that now the bones will fold into this direction here. So here we can see that Golaem didn't detect it properly because this is not the direction in which a spine folds. We want the spine to fall, in the back. When you fold in forward, your bones are going into the other direction. That bone here is going to go into that direction if we go an I key on it. So it's not correct. So if you want to fix this, we'll just take the spine bone and change the direction in which the pull vector folds is defined by that controller here. And if you set it to A, it means automatic. So here it couldn't find the right direction probably because the spine is fully extended, contrary to what I was saying earlier. You need to have a small flexion on it so we can detect in which direction it folds. So what we can just do is click on it and change the status until we reach a state we're good in. So this is X, Y, Z. So this is not good. Minus X, minus Y, and here we go. Minus Y seems to be a value, which is quite correct. And now the bones fold into that direction. So a couple of questions. Guy put questions into the question boxes and not into the chat box. But okay, does Golaem accept rigs with deformers like wraps, blend shapes, texture deformers? Does it accept dynamics like enclose and air? So my answer will be so some stuff, yes. So wraps, no. You have to convert everything as a skinning and blend shapes. I was saying, and it's going to be the same into every single package, every single crowd package you use. The reason for that is because we need to reverse engineer everything because we do the deformations ourselves. We do the deformations in in the rendering part, in the viewport, and we don't ask Maya to evaluate the rigs. So we reverse engineer the rig. So we need to know exactly how they works, and we couldn't, we're a small team and we couldn't support all the deformers. So we do support skinning and blend shapes. So right now we've got all our customers which have, custom scripts to bake everything as blend shapes. Let's say you got a wrap, you can put some intermediate blend shapes with in-betweens and approximate your wrap. But we're working on something more general, which will allow to do that. Blend shapes are fully supported. Texture deformers, if you're thinking about displacement or anything which happens at render time, that will work. If you're thinking about something which happens into Maya, that will not work. Enclose and air, yes, enclose does work, but we do not recommend it. We've got a home close system. Hand hair, yes, it will work as well, but not with simulation. And once again, we've got a home system, which is more optimized for crowds. Enclose, if you put 1,000 characters with enclose, you'll just crash Maya because it can't handle it. But we've got our own accelerated way to do close and hair, which are as good as Udo's system here. There's also a question which is, if my skeleton has consistent names and orientation, can the character maker mapping process be automatic by script? Yes, for sure. Here, I'm showing you the other way, and you're never going to have to do that manually because we've got some automatic options to do this. But I want to show you the hard way because I want you to understand the philosophy behind it. So if something bad happened with the automatic stuff, I want you to know exactly how to fix it because it's also part of the job. So let's move forward. And so now we've got the spine. So this has been answered. This has been answered. Great. So we've got the spine. So the next joint we can do is probably maybe the leg. So let's bring a limb node. And let's take that limb node here and make it a children of the root because it's a leg. And you can see it centers by default. And we've got way more controllers than just the spine. So the spine has just 2 controllers, 1 pull vector. Here we can see we've got 4 controllers, 2 pull vectors. We've got those weird stuff here. And you can see that as soon as I move my mouse on top of one of those, it's changing my characters here. So those 3 options, red, green, and blue, they correspond to where does that limb is in your body. It is on the top of the bottom part. So if it's an arm, it's on the top part. If it's a leg, it's on the bottom part. It is on the left of the center or on the right, or it is in the front, in the center, or in the back. So if you're doing a horse, you've got front legs, back legs, left legs, right legs. If you're doing a arm, it's going to be on the top. If you're doing a leg, it's going to be on the bottom. So you want to set those for your leg. So as soon as you other this, you can see that the red one is corresponding to back, front, or center. On the character, we don't have that. On the biped character, we don't have front or bottom, so we can just stick with the center. Is it on the top or is it on the bottom? Here it's a leg, so we can tell it's on the bottom. So we're gonna click on it. As soon as we click on it, it changes it to top mode. So this is why it moved to the top. If you're annoyed by the automatic moving of nodes, you can just remove this by clicking on the enable automatic layout. So it's just a toggle that you can turn on and turn off. So here, top, or I'm going to click once again to tell it's a bottom limb. So it's on the bottom part of the body. And finally, the last part is to specify if it's on the left or on the right. So let's do the right leg first. So let's put it on the right. And I can probably create another leg here, which is going to be on the bottom as well. And this time it will be on the left of my character. So this is my left leg, right leg. So next is I want to populate those four stuff. So I've got, I'm not sure, this is an I key, but I've got 4 controls for the I key. So it's kind of weird, right? You know, my leg is kind of one I key from the hips to the ankle. So why is there 2 I keys? There's 2 I keys because we're going to consider like on character, we're going to consider that the clavicle part is also, you know, a way to solve the I key of the arms. If we think about it, we've got the spine, which comes until here, more or less, until also the base of the clavicle. And then you got an I key from the shoulder to the wrist, which is like the main effector I key. But you also have some, you know, some movement happening on the clavicle. So on the clavicle, you also have some kind of I key solving here and there. So this is exactly why there are some yellow dots, which are from optional parts. If your character has some hips or clavicle, you want to mention those. If they doesn't, you can just skip them, no problem. And you've got the green part, which is like the extension part of your limb. So you've got the auxiliary optional stuff, extension part, which is the green one. So let's check if that character has, it doesn't have any specific bone here. It's just one bone from the hips to the legs. So nothing specific. So we're going to skip the yellow part. And here on the clavicle, I think there's also a clavicle bone here that we want to take into account, but we'll see how does it work. So here, let's ignore the yellow nodes. We're not going to feel those, but we're going to feel the above part of my legs. So where does my leg start from and when does it end? So it starts from, let's check what's the name of that bone here. So the name of that bone is joint R thigh, and my I key goes until the ankle. So this is my leg from, you know, the hips to the ankle, and then there's going to be a toe here or a foot here, which is going to be another I key. But for the leg, the really big part is going to be, you know, from the hips to the ankle, and from the arm, the I key here is from the shoulder to the ankle. The fingers are separate stuff here. So, okay, I'm going to say this is my right leg. So it goes from joint R thigh to joint R ankle. And you can see the pull vector is in the right direction here. And I'll do the same for the other leg. Joint L thigh to joint L ankle. And now we've got our 2 legs being mapped, and we're almost good. So as you can guess, we'll do something similar for the arms. We'll do something similar for the fingers. We do something similar for the head and the jaw and the eyes, because here they're joint controlled. But as I said, this is really the hard way. You can figure that it's a, you know, it can be a really long process if you got plenty of characters. So you know what? Let's remove all those nodes. Just kill them all. And here we've got a auto compute skeleton mapping. So that guy will go through the whole skeleton and will do exactly the job we've been doing, but automatically for us. I click on that guy here, and now it's processed the skeleton and do exactly the same job we've been doing, like looking at symmetries, looking, you know, what are the chances that this is a leg, this is a foot, this is a toe, etc., etc. And the really fancy thing is like, it's also renaming the nodes for you. Before I had limb 1, limb 2, whatever, I had to rename those. Here it tells, okay, this is something, I think it's called right leg. So it doesn't rely on names. You can have a dirty rigger who doesn't care about naming this joint, which I do not recommend. Please name your joints. But it doesn't rely on names. It doesn't rely on anything. It just rely on symmetry on your bones. So let's take a look at what's been computed here. So it figured that my character has a right arm with 4 fingers, and my character has actually 4 fingers, which is right. It mapped everything for me. And if I pay attention to what's going on into the viewports, well, it looks actually pretty good. It even fixed the spine pole vector for me automatically, so looks great. So as a first view, what I'll do to check if the automatic process went well is I check the colors. So I check that my I key is green and goes from the right joint to the right joint, so it looks good to me. I look if the pole vectors are also into the right direction. So here the arms are folding behind, so that's good. The spine is folding behind, so that's good too. The legs are folding into the right direction too, so that's great. So I'd say so far so good with that skeleton. From biped characters, quadruped characters, this is essentially 90% of the job. Sometimes you got crazy shows where you got characters which are really unexpected, and you probably have to fix those stuff. But when you deal with biped characters and quadruped characters, most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, you've got a great result from the automatic mapper. You may have to fix maybe fingers here and there if they're not, if they're fully extended. We don't figure the pole vectors ourselves. But that's it. That's it. I can see there's a question. If I had a tail to the character, which mode is the most suitable for a spine or a limb? So it really depends in which direction your tail is moving. When you do a limb is only folding into one direction, because we're going to do some optimization regarding I key computation. So, a arm always fold into one place. When you have a tail, the tail can be, it's like a snake. You can move into every single direction. So if you got a tail, it will be a good way to use the spine approximation. So let's say you've got a tail on your character. You probably had a spine node connected to your root bone here, and you connect multiple spines together to make small I keys together. So you just connect the 2 first bone of your tail with the first spine node, then the two next one, then the 2 next one, then the 2 next one. So you've got I keys per section of your tail, and you can extend it as big as you want to. Great. So let's remove that, and we're good. So this is also where you're going to specify where does the blend shapes come from, and that character has blend shapes. So let's play with blend shapes too. So blend shapes are part of the animation. So the same way skeletons is an animation channel you want to check. Blend shapes is also an animation channel you want to add onto your character. So let's stick into the skeleton mode, and let's move into the panel until we figure a panel called blend shapes. Let's open that guy here. And okay, well, it already figured the blend shapes itself, so nothing to do here. But what you get from here, let's close this and open this more probably. What you get here is the list of all the blend shapes which were figured from that character. So the character has a facial blend shapes which are stored onto the geometry. So what we did is we'll look at the skeleton, we'll look at all the geometry which were skimmed on it. We look at every single blend shape node we could find on those geometries. We read the mesh targets, and we just list them into Golaem. So that character here, the body of that character has I think it has a blend shape somewhere. I'm not sure where it is. Full body. Okay, maybe it's on the yeah. Okay, maybe it's on the head mesh. Let's figure this. Haha. Full body. Okay, and head. Okay, facial blend shapes. Yes, so we do have blend shapes here, which are sculpted to help having expression on that character here, to move there's yeah, some controllers to move the ears, some controllers to move the mouth. So let's say maybe for some reasons Golem didn't detect those blend shapes. So let's say I'll remove those. So I'll just remove those. And let's say for some reasons, or they had it afterwards, and when you detect your skeleton, it's not detected properly. What you can just do is just select your blend shape node and press plus here. Oops, maybe isolate the blend shape node. Okay, and press plus. And as soon as it's isolated, we're gonna, record the blend shapes, and they're gonna be listed here. So we're gonna record the name of the group and the name of the actual mesh target. And now it's an animation channel. You'll be able to animate, add expressions to, or whatever. Great. So we are good. This is our actual character. So you know what? From that point here, let's save this. It's a valid character. We're not able to render it, but we're able to actually use that into a simulation. Just checking, is everybody in line with this? If you're good, just chat OK in the chat bar. Just make sure that I haven't lost all of you. Okay, so that looks good. Excellent. Thank you. So let's save this. I'm just going to press the save button here. And I'm going to create like a Golem folder here for my assets. So Golem, I'm going to create a subfolder named characters. And I'm going to save this as Michel skeleton. And you can see it will be saved as a Golem character file, so GCHA. GCHA means that it's a Golem character that we can use into an entity type. So in my process, I usually like to validate that the skeletons is fine onto my characters. So now I've saved that character here. And what I'll do is I'll just create a super quick simulation. So if you remember how we create a simulation, this is exactly what we did earlier. So we're going to create an entity type. So from that button here, we're going to create a new variation of my character into the scene. So click on that button here. It will ask you for a Golem character. So here we can load the character we're actually doing right now. So let's load that guy here. Great. It doesn't ask for the shaders because the shaders are already within the scene. And we're going to populate that character here. So before populating, it's a good habit to take into account the units of my character. So remember earlier we had characters which were really small, which were 1 grid 0.8. Here, my character looks bigger. If I create a cube, which is 1, 1, 1, okay, it looks like my character is more 15 cubes than 1.8. So it means that we need to change the unit, right? So if we need to change the units, what's the value we put in it? What would you put in it? So remember, we want to have, we want our cube to represent something. So my cube is 1, but it's 1 watt. So people kind of agree. People kind of agree on centimeters. I can see meters. I can see decimeters. Okay, so let's check. Let's check how much cubes I need to create the size. Well, what's the size of the cube I need to create my character? So if my character was in meters, it will mean that my character, so let's provide the right 8 here. Let's provide probably 15. I think it's in the, let's put that on the ground. So, okay, if we say the character is if the unit is meters, we are saying that that character here is 15 meters. Well, a bit more, like 18 meters, but you get the idea. It's 80 meters. So why not? I mean, if the character is super big and if it's a Ghostbuster, Ghostbuster 2 characters at the end destroying the city, 18 meters sounds good. And all the physics will be appropriate to that character. So it will be an 18 meters character, super slow to move and super slow to fall. Okay, let's say more than what I'm looking for is more like an actual human-sized characters. So if I'm saying it's centimeters, here we are saying that the characters is 15 centimeters. So 15 centimeters is like this tool. So it's more like a small character. So why not? If we're doing a show where the characters are super small and we want the physics to be consistent with that, yeah, we probably tell it's centimeters. So, but you can feel this. So it's not meters, it's not centimeters. Something what we need is like right in between. So it's more like decimeters we want to put into this. So my character now is 15 decimeters. So 15 decimeters mean 1.5 meters, means 115 centimeters. So sounds good. I actually like the idea of having a character which is in decimeters. I can see foot. I'm not sure how much a foot is. It's 33 centimeters. So it could be, it really depends what's the size of your environment, how you consider your characters. Yeah, 3.2. Okay, thanks. So it could be, it really depends what you need to do. So that's the question you always need to ask yourself when you're starting a new show. What's the size of my character's environment, because I want them to be aligned properly for Golem and the physics system to work properly as well. So here we want to set it to decimeters, and we're good. So it means that now if we create a population tool, so the way you set up the unit is you go into the crowd manager, go into the drop down, set it to decimeters, and do this before you actually do anything else. Do this before you actually create your simulation and your population tool. So it doesn't, mismatch for the rest of your scene. So I'm within the crowd manager, set it to decimeters, and now I can create, once again, a grid population. So I'm going to double click on this. I remind you is exactly what we did before. So I double click on the population tool, create a grid. As soon as I applicate the grid, you can see that the slots, they're bigger than before. They're kind of almost aligned with the character. And what I'll just do is put one slot, one row, one columns. I'm going to orient the character so it's aligned the same way than my character into my scene. So I'm going to apply a 270 degrees angle. So I'm having just one character in decimeters, one line, one column. And when I press create now, if I run the frame, I can see my skeleton appearing. So this is the skeleton I've just converted for Golaem. So I'll do this once again if you haven't followed the steps. So first into the manager, set the crowd unit to decimeters because the character is actually having a different size. Then double click on this to create a grid. Place the grid wherever you want to. I tend to have just one character. That will be to test if my character file looks like correctly. I put a 1 and 1 number of rows and columns, and just to make it convenient, I'm going to align my character the same way. So I'm going to apply a 270 angle, so they just facing Z forward, the both of them. And when I'm happy with this, just press create. So now the walking characters appear in the scene, which means you have a simulation. Rewind the time, play a couple of frames, and now you're seeing the skeleton. We are not seeing the geometry of the character because we haven't defined the geometry. So this is why we're showing the skeleton. And by the way, just a quick word, I can notice that the characters is slightly smaller than my actual character. The reason for that is because by default within Golem, we've got scale variation applied onto the characters. So if I want to remove this, I'll jump into my entity type. So I open the entity type green, which is my actual character here, which I'm going to rename Michel. Up. And if I go into the attribute editor of that character, we can see it as the Golem character file. We just loaded. And right below, we've got a scale mode random between 0.9 and 1.1. So it's a scale we apply onto the character. So here we're probably on the lower bound of that scaling. So maybe if I want to align the two together, I'm going to put a 1.1 min and max scaling. So the next time I'll run the sim, I've got a character which is exactly the same size than my actual character. And that looks pretty good. Great. Probably now is a good time to save your scene. Save scene as into my project. I'll redo that. I'll see your message, Gilles, and I'll redo it once again. So I'm going to save that 0, 1 car conversion. Okay, so let's redo that once again. If you missed something, I'll go back into recreating the scene from scratch. So first, create your entity type. So you save your character file, create an entity type in your scene. You'll be asked to browse a skeleton file or Golaem character file. So I'm going to browse my Michel skeleton file, we just did. While we're into this, we're going to fix the scale to 1 and 1. So we don't have any variation on this. Great. We want to put the right unit into the manager. So let's go back into the manager node, into the outliner, into the attribute editor of the shape. Let's set it to decimeters, which is the actual unit of that character. Then we want to populate the scene. So I'll go into the population tool. I can open it like a double click to open it, the default menu. Else, if you just click once, you'll have the grid by default being available. So you click within the viewport to create your locator. Now you've got a grid locator with your 5 positions of your character. Let's reduce this into the pop tool to 1. Let's change the number of columns and number of rows because I just want to have one character to compare my crowd simulation with my actual character together. And I also want to orient those two together. So I'm going to add an orient offset of 270 degrees. And when I'm good with that, don't forget, you need to create from the population tool, you need to emit. You need to see that tool as an emitter. So you need to emit the characters. So I'm going to create this. So it's going to emit the characters here into the scene. And if I rewind the scene to frame 1 and play a couple of frames, now I have my characters being aligned. How do I save the skeleton into a character file again? It's so it's from the character tool, but you can if you miss that part, you can just follow the rest and review the video later. So from the character file, I'm not sure where it is. I lost it. So let's close every single editor I'm having. Yes, and open the character file, which is apparently from another screen. Oh, I moved it. Yeah, here it is. Great. So when you're in that tab here and your character is valid, it allows you to save the character file by just using the save icons. The floppy disk, if you guys were born before 1980, you probably know what are floppy disks, which is weird to have such a symbol for saving, but that's fine. The green slot is floating. It is normal. So yes, it's totally normal. It's just to avoid Z-def fighting with your ground, which is usually at 0. So the character file, you use the floppy disk. Let's say the character needs to be 3 meters and currently it is 1 meters. Can you only use the 8 variation to get the right 8, or is there another way to adjust the height of the character? Well, you can actually change the height of the character by using the scaling into the types. Let's say you want that character to be twice bigger. Let's put a scale 2 on that character, and the next time you run the sum, it's 2 times bigger. So you can change and have different characters being available for with different scaling being available for your characters. So okay, answer live, done. Can you update your numbers and value without deleting everything and recreating everything from the population node? It's a great question. I should totally have covered this earlier. Really sorry about that. Kind of missing some parts here and there sometimes. So let's go back to my 1-1 scale. Let's say you change your mind and you want to have more characters. You can go into the population tool again and change your number of characters. Let's put 4. And let's say I want to have a 2x2 with distance. And you can see that if you rewind the simulation and play, you still have that previous setup that you had before. So as soon as you change anything within your population tool, you can use the replace button. And if you press replace, it means that it will replace the previous distribution that you had. So if you replace, you see that now the box size has changed. And the next time you throw the sum, you have your 4 characters being displayed. And I can go back to where I was previously, like my 1-1, 1-1, and press replace. And now I've got my characters being replaced. So I guess it is good. Can you have different scaling with good physics on the same population? Yeah, totally. If you scale the characters differently, the legs will be higher and will do ground adaptation and motion adaptation correctly. Physics will be adapted to the scale of the character. So if you provide scale variation, everything will follow accordingly. And is the undo command always disabled for Golem? Not always, but it's true that in some situation, um, undo doesn't work. So when in doubt, you know, usually nothing is distractive. So rather than using undo, just redo the operation yourself, or kill the connection, or just remove it. If you maybe didn't select the right bone into your UI, you can always re-click on it and remap another one. But yeah, you know, coding undo everywhere, especially within Maya, where a lot of stuff are happening under the hood and we don't control it. It's kind of hard. So sometimes we can do it, sometimes we can't. So I would say, as a, you know, as a rule of thumb, just redo your operation, delete your previous stuff and recreate it. Usually it's non-destructive, so you can always go back into a tool and change your properties without breaking everything. So this is something we take more attention to. Okay, I want to cover the last part of my character conversion. Okay, I can see. I'm just sorry. I'm just reading questions at the same time. So if you have okay, if you have errors when we replace the population tool, usually that's because let's say here, well, usually it's because your drop downs are not populated correctly. So either delete the previous particle system because and I totally skip to say that, but the pop tool emits particles and Golem relies on particles. But it's completely like invisible for you. But if you want to take advantage of particles, that's fine. You can totally take advantage of those. You can use Maya fields and Maya emitters, and that will work with Golem. So let's say you got an error. Just delete the particle systems that you had, take the pop tool again, and now instead of having replace, you've got a create button. You go back to the create button and you can now apply a create button here. And you've got your characters being back again. But whatever, just delete the nodes, and if that doesn't work, and and just to maybe check the lessons and again, see what was different on your side. Okay, let's move forward. I really want to have my geometry being assigned to my characters. Right now, we just convert characters and skeletons. So let's see how we can convert geometry too. Let's go back into my character maker. So we're done with the skeleton part. I guess you have the really big takeaway of it. But really, it's way more advanced to that because we support squash and stretch, we support roll bones, and all those advanced animation controls you can have. I won't go into details here, but you can set those. We've got plenty of tutorials to go through. It's a bit more advanced for that session. But when you do a real CrowdTD and you'll be into a advanced high animation studio or a high VFX studio, you probably will have to, you know a bit more about this. But for now, casual mapping is going to be good. Let's switch into now the skeleton tab, from the skeleton tab to the geometry tab. Just a quick word, if it doesn't work for you, clicking on the geometry, we know that sometimes on some computers, clicking on the geometry tab doesn't do anything. It looks like there's a Qt bug somewhere we couldn't figure it yet. So if that happens to you, just go into the drop-down character, go into motion, and go back into character just to update and refresh the UI, and it should fix the issue for you, and now you can get access to the geometry tab. Great, another tab, another nodal editor, which is fully blank that we need to populate once again. So different nodes this time, maybe more dry interface. Yeah, well, this is where, because, well, crowd is all about, diversity. Skeleton is one thing. Our characters can share the same skeletons. But where's the automatic button? It's here. You know what? It's here. But diversity is a really key point to make a believable crowd. You want to have, assets variation, shading variation, and you want to have control upon it. And you want to have artistic control on how much asset distribution will happen onto your characters. And that's a pain. So we want to have really high hand flexibility on this. So this is why you've got an editor where you are going to define what's the diversity on that character. And yes, there's an automatic button to deal with that for you, because you can have hundreds of meshes, and I don't want you to bring hundreds of nodes into that scene manually. So for the automatic mode to work, we need to make some work beforehand. So let's check first, how does the mesh repartition looks like? So we've got we've got a panel group here, which has a stick and a board. So that's great. It means that that panel is made of those two meshes. So far, so good. We've got jewelry, which contains the glasses, the earrings. So once again, we kind of sorted meshes by types. But here, maybe it's not really a composition of the two meshes. Maybe sometimes what we want to do is maybe a variation. We want to have some characters which have the right earring, the left earring, and or the glasses. So groups, but different types of groups. Then we've got hairs. So we've got the main hair, the weak hair, or the cap. And here, clearly, it's a variation, but it's grouped by type, so that's good. We've got mustaches, big one, thin one. Here again, it's a variation. We've got clothes. When we open the clothes, we've got a subgroup, which is suit and casual. So casual is made of a composition of multiple meshes. Suit is made of a composition of multi meshes, but we want to make a variation of it. So that's great. And body, here we've got full body, belt buckle, eye. So, okay, not bad. That classification is quite exactly what we need. Like all the meshes, they're grouped together, and we can totally work with this. So what we'll do is just select geometry here, which has all the geometry within it. We'll go and select the character node here. And once we've got geometry selected, character selected, we're going to press on that button here, which is import geometry. And let's go. And here we go. So let's take a look at what we have. As soon as you do that, you end up with that huge graph. Every single mesh that you had is now loaded into the editor. Every single shader, shading engine, shading group is loaded, and everything is connected. Every single transform is loaded and made as an asset group. And you got that huge hierarchy of nodes. So maybe a quick tip to handle the interface. You've got all the casual stuff like F to frame what you've been selecting. But there's something which is quite specific. Let's say you'd like to close this from one level. You want to remove all the leaf level here. You can go into any node here, press Shift and your mouse wheel. And if you up your mouse wheel or down your mouse wheel by pressing Shift on being above a node, it will take all the leaves and it will, close them. And if you do this again and again, you can like change how deep you see the hierarchy of the group node. And this works in any part of the tree. You can open and below. Okay, so what we'll do is for now, I just want to keep my groups. I want to keep just my transform. So what I'll do here, just to open and close, so to add, to see or remove one level of hierarchy, I just press, I just put my mouse above any of the node here. I don't need to select it, just put the mouse above. And I press Shift and move up, move down to the final level. If I want to just zoom in, zoom out, it's just the wheel without Shift, like any editor. I can use Alt in the middle click, like the rest of my editors. We try to be consistent with that. So okay, let's just keep the groups and see what's going on here. So first we can see that on a lot of arrows here, we're having 50 being written everywhere. So I'm not really sure what's going on here. Well, I know what's going on here. I'm kind of, I'm losing my words. Sorry, I'm getting tired. I know exactly what's going on here. We're saying that we are doing a variation. So when we got that number here, it means it's a weight, and you are making a variation of it. So it means that now my characters, they are made of a geometry, and the geometry can be either a panel or jewelry or the hair or the mustache or the clothes or the body. And obviously this is not what we want, else we'll have a floating panel somewhere for one character, a flying mustache for one character, a flying body for one character. So here it's not a variation, it's a composition. The characters are made of a t-shirt, a body, a mustache, a hair, etc., etc. So we want to remove that variation. So to remove the variation, we just go into the node which handles that variation. We're going to zoom on the node, and we can see we got that icon here, which is able to create a variation out of it or not. If I click on it, it enables variation. If I disable it, you can see the weight disappear. And now your character is made of a panel, a jewelry, a hair, a mustache, clothes, and a body. So, okay, let's see what other weighting we have. On the clothes, we can see now we've got a repartition between suits and casual. So that's fine. This is actual real variation. We want the characters to either wear that composition of mesh or that composition of mesh. So that's great. This is an actual weighting. Great. We can see also that on the panel, for example, if we open it, so once again, I can use the shift and the roll button, middle click of the roll button to move this one step forward or one step back. And now we're saying that the panel is going to be either a board or a stick. So once again, we're saying it's a composition. So here it's not a composition. So let's remove composition. Jewelry, we're saying we've got either the left earring, the right, the left, or the glasses. Let's say it's the variation and we're fine with that. So we're good. Hairs, it's also a variation. Mustache, it's also a variation. Suits, let's open it. Here we're saying we're gonna have either the shirt, the tie knot, the color, so not a variation, so let's remove that. And casual, once again, we're saying it's a variation, so let's remove that. And body, let's remove the variation. We don't have a variation on this. And well, we're not gonna set everything, but you kind of now get the idea. We should probably need to remove the lids variation and the body split variation, and we're good. Okay, I just want to move forward before that session hand up. So takeaway, when there's a variation, enable the button. When there's no variation, disable it. When we are within Golem, if there are multiple meshes in the transform, we usually consider it's a variation. If it's not, you just have to remove it. So that's the key part of it. Great, not so bad. What else do I need to set? For now, I'm kind of good with that. So we'll try now displaying the geometry of that character within the viewport and see if that works, and see if we're good with variation and if everything appears properly. So what I want to do, final step, which is super important, is I need to export that geometry somewhere. So right now, the geometry and the skinning and the bones, they live only within Maya. But when I'm going to render my crowd, I will not be able to ask to Maya to evaluate my deformations. So I need to store my geometry and my skinning and my UVs and my normals of my geometry. I need to store everything into a specific file format. If you think about it, there's no many file format which allow to store skinning and everything which is not tied to a DCC. One popular file format 10 years ago was FBX. So before we were supporting FBX, we still support FBX. We were using FBX as a file format. But the problem with FBX is that it's not really fast and it's not multi-thread safe. So if you have a huge CPU with a lot of processors, you cannot really benefit from that when you are using FBX. So it's a pain, especially if you're under hundreds of thousands of characters, you're tied to just one CPU, even if you got 16 or 32 of those. So we decided to create a own file format. Once again, we had to create a own file format to that. So we've got a own file format to store geometry, skinning, UVs, blend shapes, and everything which is supported within Golem. It's called the GCG, Golem Character Geometry File. And the way you export this is by going back into the character node. And when you're in the character node, you can see that you've got an attribute open. And by the way, if all those stuff disappeared on your side for some reason, you just have to right click into a right click where? Haha. Oh, okay, I lost it. Right click somewhere. Okay, I shouldn't have closed everything because I think I'm screwed. How am I? Oh, what a pain. Okay, UI bug here. Damn. I don't close. Oh, okay, here we go. Yay, there's some empty space here. Saved. So, okay, if you close everything like me, don't do it first. But let's say for some reason it's closed or by accident it's closed. You've got that tiny blank space above the geometry panel here. You can ask for the toolbar to reappear, assets properties, asset outliner. Great. So go back. Let's go back into here. Let's go back into the character node. And within the character node, I can close that outliner. I never use it, actually. I can use that first button I can see, which is export geometry file. So it means that here we're going to save and export the geometry within the character geometry file. So I'm going to click on it. It's going to say, would you like to use the new geometry file format? It's not so new. Probably that window will disappear into the next version. But it's saying to you that since 5.3, which is a really old version, we introduce a whole geometry file format, GCG. So would you like to use the GCG or stay with the old file format, which is not great? So for some, in some situations, some customers like to use FBX because they can control the file format. So really up to you here. But I really recommend using GCG because it's way more faster. So I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to save my Golaem character geometry file along my character. So I'm going to save Michel geometry. Great. It's telling me that well, it's telling me that the bind pose is not correct. So there are warnings. But the difference is not so big. So I'm going to ignore those. Let me check. Skinning bind pose. Yeah, okay. I can totally ignore those. They are just warnings, so nothing critical here. I'm going to say OK. And as soon as I say OK, now I've got that bounding box appearing for my character. I can see that within the character geometry now, there's an entry which is saying that the geometry of that character is michelgeometry.gcg. I can set up some LOD. We're probably going to play with this when we do the stadium. I can set plenty of different things. Great. Are we here? Are we here there? Not yet, but almost there. So now, how do we control those weights? Because, I'm having 50 everywhere, but let's say I need to make a shot where all the characters need to wear glasses. And let's say I need to make another shot where I want all the characters to wear suits, and half of them have glasses, half of them don't. So how do you control those? So this is the final panel we haven't spoken about, which is the rendering type. So how does my character will look like at rendering time? So when you export the character GCG for the first time, it's going to create a default type, but we can remove that. I can select my default type and remove it to go back to what we had before. And I can create as many types as I want to. So let's create the business type. So I'm going to create a new type, business. And every single time I had a variation, now I can control a weighting system. So, okay, jewelry, I want my characters, so business type, I will say half of the guy have glasses, the other half don't have glasses. So I'll put my earrings to 0. Most of the business guy don't have earrings, right? And now I'll put the glasses to 50, and you can see here you got a weighting system. So you don't have to make sure that this sums to 100. We make that sure for you by normalizing those weights, and we provide for you the percentage here. So by putting 0 everywhere except the glasses, we're saying that 100% of the guy will wear glasses. So not really what we want, right? We want to have also a case where the characters don't wear anything. So we probably have to change a slightly a variation. So let's go back to the group jewelry. Let's open that group. And if we want to have an empty asset, what we can do is we can just create ourselves a new group. So I can drag and drop a new group, put it here. I can rename it the way I want to. I can say empty jewelry, for example, and I'm just going to make a connection. So same way from the parent to the children, from jewelry to empty jewelry. And as soon as I create a new connection, now I've got a new variation being applied onto that character. And as that transform is not connecting to anything, it's a blank choice. And if I go back to my rendering type, now I have a choice between glasses or empty jewelry. And up to me to decide what's my weighting here. I want to have a bit more people that have glasses than people who don't have glasses. Great. Hair, well, most of my character won't have a cap. It's not really business. Mustache, it's so business, but here it means that we'll have a variation between either big or thin. So once again, I can make a blank choice. Up to me, I can either connect to the other empty group I'm having, doesn't make any difference, or I can create, just for the sake of it, to make it maybe more clean, I create maybe an empty mustache and connect it as a choice, as a blank choice. And now I'm having a new blank choice, and I can say, okay, 50% of my character will not have any mustache, and the other guys will share half-half. Clothes, I'll put suit to non-zero and casual to 0. And now I have my business type. Great. And I can create another type if I want to. I can create maybe I don't know, casual. Let's create another casual stuff. So casual, let's put some, random weights here and there. Casual, they're more like casual here, casual there, less mustache. And, and you can do this per shot, per sequence, wherever you want to, and you can override every single characters. With the layout tool, you can override every single character type, every single character mesh assignment, and so on and so forth, right? So, okay, let's say you do all your rendering types, and you can still populate this later whenever you're good. And when you're happy with that, don't forget to save your character file, because we've been doing some updates here. So we want those updates to be replicated into the simulation. So I'm going to save my character. Probably I should then make another version of it. If I was into a studio, I would make like a Michel geometry 1, Michel character 2, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Great. And let's see how does the geometry assignment performs onto that character here. So first is I want to go back into my entity type. And what I want to do is I want to assign my characters with a rendering type. So before, because we made that entity type, which has only skeletons, we couldn't figure, the geometry like we did before for the casual man. We couldn't figure the rendering type like we did before for the casual man, because it was not here for Golaem to exist. So now that we have populated it, we need to augment that node. So let's go back into the entity type, my green entity type Michel character. Let's go into the shape. And we can see that at the bottom, we got rendering attributes. And we've got the drop down with the rendering type we've just created, like business and casual, which are just the two stuff we've been creating. So I'm going to select business and press plus. So now it's added. And I can even add casual guys. And I can control in my crowds, in my type, in my green guys, how many of those will be business, how many of those will be casual. So let's put casual to 0 to just check if the business is great. Let's rewind the simulation. And final stuff, if I want to see, because here, if I just run the sim, I just have still my skeleton display. So I need to change my display mode to render previews to see how does my character look like in terms of geometry. And the next time we'll throw the geometry, we've got the business type guy. Oh, and it has a panel, so not really business. So not so great. I just want to make sure that I'm having my variation. So I'm gonna make more characters. Let's make maybe 16 of those in a 4x4 grid. and replace, and let's see how it looks. So I've got some characters not wearing glasses, some characters wearing glasses, characters with panels, all of them because I haven't defined, different haircuts, hold the same gear. So let's say I want to have casual people now. I can go back into my entity type, change my weighting here, and next time I run my sim, now I have casual guy with t-shirts and cap like I've defined. I hope wearing that sign again, so I probably need to increase my Golem character file to remove that sign. And now you've got variation onto those characters. It's almost time to end up the session. I wanted to show you, you know, how you can make, you know, character variation. I can have different scaling on bones on that character and make them have random scaling on some of the bones, like the spine and the arms. We will not have the time, but we covered this into a full tutorial. So if you're interested into this, please take a look at this. And also that character, when you open the predefined Golem character we made for it, you will see that it's fully populated with all the different stuff. So let's say I want to remove the sign from that character. What I can do is I can go into that panel group here. I'm probably going to make a new asset group there that I'll connect to the geometry. I'll go fast here, sorry. Then I'll go and connect the panel to it. Okay, and remove that connection. Let me show you what I did. So I just like added an intermediate node, because what I want to have is a panel, which is a composition of meshes, and a empty panel. So probably you would have to rename this. And now I'm going to make a variation, and I probably rename that group as panel. And now I can control within my different types, like in the business, does the character have a panel or not? So I'm going to say they don't have any panel, and some of the casual guy will have a panel and some will not. And if I save this here, don't forget to save whenever you do a modification. Don't forget to save. And the next time you throw the sim, now you see that the panel has disappeared for the businessman, and some of the casual guy have the panel. So let's tackle the last question I have from Zach. How do I create a rendering type? You select rendering type here, and you just click on the plus button. And now you can create a new rendering type, provide the name you want to, and it will create it for you. We haven't spoke about shading variation, which is a big deal. Maybe I'll take some time tomorrow to when we're going to speak about stadiums. It will be great to show how you can have different flags with different colors. So I'll show you that tomorrow. Everything, so that session will be put onto YouTube tomorrow. It's the same time. We're going to do crazy stadiums with Mexican waves, flags, clothes. What else? We're going to lay out those everywhere. So enjoy that. In the meantime, if you got any issue, there's the Discord. So check the Discord, go into this. This is going to be the priority way to get support and get help from the community. So please join the Discord. It's a lot of fun there. If you're having still issues with rendering engine, once again, sorry, we do not support Arnold 4.0.0, which is apparently the main reason people couldn't get the crowd to render. And I really encourage you to maybe go through the Quickstart. So we've got a shortest video. When you evaluate the software, you get a download link with also a couple of links of various tutorials. Check the Quickstart. It covers the same stuff we've been doing at the beginning, like creating a scene from scratch with assets from the character pack. Make sure that before tomorrow, you're able to render your crowds. So bring your crowds in your scene, populate, render, so you'll have the PLE license. But still, if it renders, that's fine, and you can be proud of yourself. And I'm not sure how we deal with license. Alex, should we deal with license like now, or how does it work, or do we send an email? Okay, so I can see, and it's going to be completely lost into all the message of everybody. And I'm sorry, I can't read all those messages. So thank you for your attention. Yeah, I can see it's okay. Great session. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you for you too, actually, guys. Thanks for being there. There's so many people connected at the same time. So really amazing. So yeah, for licensing, we probably send the link. But we're going to provide a commercial license for you to remove the PLE. So yeah, come. Any questions? Once again, go into the Discord. Here it's late, but tomorrow we'll take a look at the Discord and we'll answer the questions that you guys have. If you haven't been able to render the crowds, please follow the Quickstart. Make sure you have the right version. Sorry, we do not support 4.0.0 of Arnold, but so just update your Arnold version and that will work right away. And I think that's done. Alex, il y a quelque chose? Is there anything you'd like me to add to this? That was intense. Speaking for 4 hours, and that's just the first day. Okay, you're good. Great. So yeah, we probably send an email to everybody with the details with what we've been saying, like the Discord link, the quick start session, how to get your license. And tomorrow we'll see how to install the license and how to create a stadium and make some clothes. Hopefully you guys are all safe and you enjoy the session. Thanks a lot for being there. Yeah, stay. If that piqued your interest today, once again, we've got plenty of open positions, and this is really like the big motivation for us to do those academy, like to have more people being trained as being crowd artists. And 16 hours of training is actually pretty great to get you into the crowd game. Especially right now, people are really eager to everybody who knows the software. So 16 hours of training is 16 hours more than everybody else who haven't opened the software before. And if you decide to make the assignment, like make the zombie invasion and make your own shot yourself, you're going to learn a lot. So if that piqued your interest, stay motivated. It will be great. And, there are plenty of really exciting work and a lot more coming because all the production are starting again. And crowds are going to be more and more critical because we can't have a lot of extras anymore onto a set because of the pandemic. So crowds are going to be a big thing. So yeah, stay close. So time to go. You guys take care. Have a great day. Have a great night. Thanks again for joining, and see you tomorrow. The session is all recorded. It will be soon available. Not sure exactly when, but soon available on our YouTube channel. We'll send you the data and the link if you want to review this later. You guys take care and see you later.